Dinging my phone.
Hey guys, welcome to our Supernatural special on Wheels and Heels. And let's go into our intro and then we'll introduce everyone. And we're back. And I can see everybody jams every time we play that. It's like, it's catchy, right, guys?
I can't help it. It's automatic for me.
It's automatic. So I see a lot of familiar faces, and I see a new face to our roundtable. So we'll start with the newbie. We have Jerome Connor's wife, Kara. How are you doing?
Good. Jerome says he's not a Supernatural fan, but he is. Secretly.
Secretly.
He like watches it in the background.
You force him to watch it with you, don't you? So that you have the support. I do. I need my support system, especially now that it's over. He sort of understands.
And so familiar faces, Omar. Oh my God, how you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing all right, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, and then we got. I'll go ahead and introduce him because you love him.
But I suck with names, so I said it wrong twice today already.
You said it wrong twice.
Yes.
Darius.
Hey guys, I'm glad to be back.
I have an A problem, I guess. Like, I can't talk.
Well, no, because it is pronounced two ways. It's Darius or Darius, depending
I
on.
accept either word. Either way, I've heard it said way worse before. So
I'm right there with you, Darius.
Is it
my last name?
Darius at the goth clubs? Is that what it is? Like you switch it up to make it sound more mysterious?
Maybe.
When you want to be foreign.
It's different ways pronounced depending on my mood.
So we're talking about.
Now I got all like stupid and ridiculous, and I like.
Well, you have lots of things in your head. I can see the hamster wheel spinning.
It's exciting. So, I think it's just going around and around, and the hamster's dead, but it's okay. I can't believe that's what I'm nervous. I'm sorry.
Well, are you sure? Maybe it's just Dean.
I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of what I fell asleep to last night. I went down a rabbit hole of
that's
all things supernatural. It was very. It was a 2-hour rabbit hole of searching for information. I was not well yesterday. I don't know.
So,
and I watched the finale again, so on top of that.
Yeah, and the tears.
Yes. Hi, Bruce.
So we're gonna start with before we hop into the main topics and stuff. We're gonna start with Kara. So you were with Supernatural from the beginning, right?
Yeah. I'd been watching a little show called Supernatural, or not Supernatural, Smallville. And my favorite character moved to like this weird new show, Supernatural. And I was like, wait a minute, where'd he go? So I had to come over and I'm like, oh, there he is. There's Dean. All right, I can handle this. And I'm like, ooh, that other guy's a little weird looking. But very soon I became a Sam girl. He's all mine.
That's okay, because I'm a Dean girl, for sure.
All right, we're all set then. No
I'm
fighting.
a Dean girl, but I'm Sam curious, and I can't help myself. Yeah.
I think everybody is
Bobby
something
girl
and other curious.
But so I think there's Kelly. She's back.
I'm back.
So which way did you want to go? Did you want to go around?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna hit Omar. Omar, when did Supernatural come on your radar?
Just around the same time as Kara there, I was watching Smallville. I don't know how Jensen Ackles like high school coach was your favorite on the show, but that's cool. But yeah, it was coming on, and I decided why not? I'll give it a shot. I was a big Buffy fan, and I was kind of looking for something to fill that void, that gap. And I was super impressed with the first episodes and how they deal with like Americana and the lore, and there was so much to like about that first season, and it hooked me.
Hard not to get hooked.
Yeah. What about you, Darius? Were you there from the beginning as well?
Well, yeah, I started with Smallville as well. Sometimes Jensen being in the show kind of blinks in and out of my memory. But then I actually started with Supernatural in season 2, like the right beginning of season 2, when Dean was having the out of body experience and right after the accident. So I was like, what is this show? Because I had my stepfather kept trying to egg me on to watch the show. So then I finally got around to it, and I was hooked ever since. Like I tried every which way to watch the first season so that I'm not too far behind, and I was just hooked ever since.
So Kelly, let me guess, Smallville led you to Supernatural as well?
Not exactly. I was really late to the show. I got into it after season 5 aired, and I had always been aware of it just through the internet fandoms, because a lot of I was a Smallville fan, and I was like a Roswell fan, and a lot of my fandoms overlap, obviously. And I always was aware of it, but I was never really a horror fan. So I was like, ooh, I don't know if I could get into it. And my friends were all always like, well, you should really watch it. So then I started watching it on DVD. Throwback there. And I got hooked, and I just binged it. I was pregnant with my daughter, who is 10 now, and I just binged the whole damn thing and like could not get enough. My husband and I both got hooked on it, and I was like, well, I think we were borrowing them from the library, and we're like, well, we need to do this interlibrary loan and get the next one because we need our fix. We need to know what happened. And it was kind of nice because we did get into it, so we didn't have to wait that gap between seasons.
That gap was rough.
Yeah.
Right?
Especially after the car crash. Like when the accident happened, and I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
what is going on? Why?
And I'm sure like Dean going to hell and like every season.
I was just
Yeah.
I think maybe that was a little bit of the pull. It was like there was all this supernatural, like there was a monster of the week for to start with, but there was that underlying like family, that blood is thick, and it was important, and I was just like, this is my kind of show.
That's the heart of the show, I think.
And it really was. It was like it was the most fun I think I had watching a television show, because you could get scared, you could be scared, and you could laugh, and you could absolutely fall in love with characters
and cry
a lot. I cried a lot.
Is it bad?
A lot of times in the same episode.
Yeah, when I switched over from Smallville, I didn't realize it was a horror show. Is that really bad?
No.
Well, it didn't really come off as so much of a horror show until, like, I guess later on. I remember I have seen a couple episodes, folks. But yeah, no, for me, it didn't come off as a horror show until probably later on, when it started to get really dark.
It's like a sci-fi. It's like a blender, because they mix sci-fi, they mix comedy and action and horror. I mean,
that longest running sci-fi, series ever. So right?
Yeah, it's the longest running genre television show of all time.
Yeah, originally it was like Stargate SG-1, then Smallville took it, and now it's Supernatural by a long shot.
Yeah, like 5 seasons.
Yeah, so good luck to the next guy.
and I always think that the funniest part about that is the fact that it really wasn't supposed to go past season 3. Like, it was really, the arc was set at 3 seasons. That's what Kripke wanted.
But then he agreed
to 2 more, even though he wasn't the showrunner at that point. Because he was the showrunner until season 5, I think. And then the guys had signed in for a 6th season. and he had left the show, and he was doing other things. So it wasn't like he didn't still have, which we'll talk about later, because Kripke hasn't left yet. But there was a lot of things that pulled me into the show, and I was like, season 1, episode 1. I was watching it, and I'm like, I'm gonna die. The show is awesome.
Way back September 13th, 2005.
September 13th, 2005. I was watching it live, and then I was DVRing it. Can you believe it? That's how far away that was.
This is like when it was not even the CW. This was the WB network.
Right.
Yep.
During the age.
I was watching the channels on, because we had cable, but I had to watch the special, like the special channel, because we didn't have WB, did we? No. No, I'm thinking Smallville. Sorry. So I didn't watch Smallville. I didn't watch Smallville until it was on DVD, and Brian made me watch it because I didn't have WB, because I didn't have cable. In my little network, in my Podunk City, but we did have cable because I knew you when we were watching
in Vegas. We
were watching it too.
I couldn't agree with that statement even more. The early seasons had X-Files vibes. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
It was very much a monster of the week. Like, what are we going to meet next? What kind of lore will there be?
Yeah, and then
I loved it though because they handled it so well. Like versus like other shows that did the monster of the week, it fit the format so well of these like road trip traveling brothers, you know, and they pushed the envelope on how much they could scare people on network TV. There were some episodes in those early seasons that were really terrifying. The Wendigo episode, the clown episode, the Scarecrow, like those all come to mind.
I couldn't do the clown episode free.
And can we just say
it was terrible. Oh no,
we lost Kelly. For the show's budget, the effects I think were really, for television standards, were really good.
It was such cool practical effects that you almost forgot that it was a practical effect.
Yeah. Like, and Omar being the super resident horror nerd on the roundtable here, the effects, like the practical effects, did it bring you back to the 80s a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. It was cool to see them use minimal CG, and when they did use it, it was just more of a tool to like help assist the practical. The doppelganger episode in particular stands out to me as one of my favorites, just because of the use of music and the effects of like the teeth falling out and him like kind of the camera movements and stuff to show him like shaking and turning into someone else. I just remember that being so cool.
Oh, that was so gross.
Kind of the stuff I'm into.
Slime. It was yeah.
You know, there's something that's not in the show notes that I think that we should talk about is the various like cameos from other actors like that we've seen in tons of other shows that showed up during the 15 years.
Oh my God, can you even remember them all?
We could not even begin to scratch the surface of it. But like, I guess like our characters that were like reoccurring characters, they came back multiple times, you know, and they were like, you'd not see them for episodes or seasons, and then they were back.
I was kind of disappointed that Jeffrey Dean Morgan wasn't as like on the show as long as I think he should have been. But I mean, they did have Bobby that kind of filled that role.
I think part of the growth of the thing was to get them to a point where at the end, closer to the end. So when he made his return, when Jeffrey Dean Morgan came back after Mary came back, like it was kind of like that. You've lost this, you get it back. Yeah, you lose it again, but you're reunited at the end.
I think I liked Jeffrey Dean Morgan better on Supernatural than I did on The Walking Dead.
Ooh, bold statement.
But that's also why they wrote him the way he did, just because he had that contract. He had that commitment to The Walking Dead, and they couldn't. It's like, oh, we need John, Jeffrey, and it's like, oh, we can't get him. All right, now what do we do? Put him on the telephone or something.
Yeah, I think in the earlier seasons when, because he was kind of taking off, like he had a couple of those movies that he was in, and then of course he was on Grey's Anatomy, I think it was.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I loved that they spoofed his Grey's Anatomy role in that episode with Dr. Sexy.
Yes.
That was.
Gotta love Dr. Sexy.
Yeah.
Dr. Sexy was great.
Rosemary with Amber Benson, Tara from Buffy was in a couple of episodes.
And James Marsden.
Yeah.
Marsden,
and then the guy from,
I can talk.
I don't know his name. The guy that was on Vampire Diaries, the blonde. He was on an episode of Supernatural as well. The one that recently had came out as gay, like a couple years ago. Any of you watch
There's too many of them.
I'm thinking of blonde. You're not talking about Alaric, are you? Alaric's actor.
He worked at the college.
He was the teacher.
He was a teacher.
Alaric
Actor.
Alaric.
I think is his name. Yeah, he was on Supernatural.
Yeah.
Alaric. Yeah. I had to
DJ
think for a minute.
Smalls will always be my favorite.
DJ
Like Garth will always be like my favorite recurring character.
Garth is awesome.
Just because he was so, I don't know, he really lightened the episodes. Nothing ever got heavy.
Have you read this one, Children of Anubis?
I have not read that one.
It's got Garth. You'll love it.
I'm gonna have to. I'm super behind. I'm so behind. It's in my Kindle.
No, it needs to be in your head. In your head. This is going to be my third. I'm in the middle of my third reading now.
That's good to know.
Lauren Cohan, yeah.
Yep.
Who's the little
Bella.
Who's the little dude who played Fargo on Eureka? He was in there.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then Fargo. I don't actually know what his real name is. Yeah.
I don't either.
His real name is. His name is Fargo in the show. It's Fargo.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there also another Eureka alumni on Supernatural? The actor that plays Zane, wasn't he on Supernatural? I could have sworn he showed up sometime.
Oh, he probably did. He looks like a CW kind of guy.
I think he did, but I couldn't tell you which episode.
My favorite was Kim Rose as Jody.
Jody rocks.
Yeah, because I grew up on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, so to see her go from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody to Supernatural, I was all for it.
Well, my other favorites were Joe and Ellen. So like she was the first character on a CW show that really was, she was female and she was kicking ass. Like she didn't let anything, like everything.
Yeah.
She was up for.
It's so funny the back and forth between Joe and Bobby. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
And Jim Beavers will always be like. It was so good to see him in the finale again. I was like,
yeah,
love him. So
I had a soft spot for Rufus, man. Like nobody ever mentioned poor Rufus.
I love Rufus.
You know what? I met Stephen Williams. The dude is a fantastic guy. Of course, we know him from Friday the 13th 9, but a lot of people know him from 21 Jump Street.
Oh, that's where he's from.
Yeah. He was the head cop on 21 Jump Street. He was the one that assigned them to go back to high school.
You know who, for some reason, he always reminds me of? If you ever watch the Venture Brothers, their pastiche of Blade always reminds me of him. Like, and I can't shake it. I don't know if it's just because, like, I don't know if he did the voice or anything, or if he was associated at all, but it just seems like they took him and made him animated.
Kelly was. Oh, whoops.
I think she's having internet issues.
Yeah. So, but
Definitely.
what character was it that you guys related to the most?
In all honesty, I wish I was John Winchester, but I think I related most to Felicia Day's character.
I guess we have a little bonus because this is my daughter as well. Also, my internet's being twitchy. Sorry, guys.
It's okay. We'll just keep adding you.
Which is about 4 o'clock. So
Yeah, I could totally see the whole Felicia Day. Yeah, you're totally Charlie, Omar.
Yeah, I just got to speak from the heart there.
it's funny because it's funny because they both, like, I kind of felt like I lived in both Sam and Dean's shoes. Like, I was the oldest. I was, basically supposed to take care of my sister, but I also felt really, rebellious because I wanted to do my own thing and I wanted to be out of everybody's shadow. And I didn't feel like,
well, you were definitely,
like I wanted to leave.
Well, you were definitely like Sam. I mean, you went off to college.
Yeah. I think my heart is like on my sleeve like Sam's was, but I think like the inner strength I think I have of Dean, but I happen to like Bad Boys, so yeah.
I so connect with Sam. Everything. Second born, I went to college. My older sister didn't. Just so much as that. Total Sam, except for the fact that Dean kept the family together, and that was kind of my role in the family, as I was the one there trying to keep everybody together after my dad passed, and so that's my nod with Dean. But
I mean, and that was the other thing, that was my job. Like it was not a job. It was not a job. It was not something that somebody told me I had to do, but I always felt like I had to do it.
You just do it because somebody has to pick up the role.
Yeah.
And I guess probably I will talk about it a little bit later, but I think that that was like the whole thing was that brother being together and doing what brothers should do, that bond that you can always count on each other. That was what sold me, I think, on the show.
Yeah, I definitely relate to Sam. Me being the youngest born of both my parents, and me going off to college, and me not wanting to follow in footsteps that I didn't feel was my path, and me always feeling like I have to protect, like, especially later Sam, where it's like he always feel like he was always being the one protected, so now he feels like he can do the protecting as well. That kind of was my role to play too. So yeah, I definitely related to Sam a lot. But Dean is also like, I want to say like my rebellious side also has a kind of a way with Dean as well, where he just like he questions a lot of stuff. He don't trust easily. So yeah.
I related to the protective older brother thing about Dean, but I gotta go with. So I started out relating to Joe Harvell, and then now that I'm a mom, definitely relate to Ellen. You either die, Joe, or live long enough to see yourself become the Ellen.
I think that was probably one of the most tragic deaths for me on the show. Like that one hit me hard.
Yeah.
And then to find out that it was mostly influenced by fandom, I like turned on everyone real quick. I was just like, oh, screw this fandom.
I hated that so much.
I was really upset when that happened, but I wish they'd gone out a little bit, tougher. Like,
yeah,
they deserved I really think they deserved a hunter's farewell instead of
Ash too.
Oh,
I was upset with Ash.
Yeah.
I mean,
I will never get over that.
who in the freaking 21st century can rock a mullet like Ash?
Nobody.
Seriously.
Nobody.
It's just.
I'm glad that they did bring him back when they were up in heaven. He's like, he found all the ways to cut the corners. It's like, yeah, you got to go over here, just make this little symbol and go.
So, what was the other? I'm kind of like, I don't have my. Yes, I do. I'm stupid. I have them written right here in front of me. I got problems. So I think we kind of talked a lot about our characters and the ones that really spoke to us, but like favorite story arcs, like seasons that you kind of um I know they all have rewatchability. Like, let's just face it, I've seen every episode probably 3 times.
Leviathans.
I wasn't a fan of that season as much, but I very much enjoyed.
I will say that season was disappointing. Like the story of it, like on paper, was like, oh, this is cool.
I agree.
It was missing something.
Well, it was the whole Dick Roman thing, like that whole match. I didn't believe the believability of the characters. And then this is when the CGI took a really big. It wasn't as practical anymore, and CGI took a bigger like leap into the show. And I just felt it was kind of lackluster. Like I felt lackluster.
Yeah.
Now I was very happy when season 8 came around, and we still had Crowley, we had the Demon Tablet, we had Kevin Tran. I think that was like the renewal. I'm not saying that I ever really lost interest. I'm just saying like when season 8 happened, I was like, okay, we're kind of back to the the real kind of storytelling that we'd gotten used to. I will always love the first season. It's something that I think those first 2 seasons were like important to the entire show and the runnability of the show. But it's hard to pick one. I think like, I don't know.
What about you, Omar? What story arc?
I mean, I think for me, the first 5 seasons were super great. And they just kind of had a very definitive beginning, middle, and end. As much as I love the show and I continue to watch it, that could have been it, and I would have been fine. So probably the first. When did they finish the Yellow Demon? The second season, right? The Yellow-Eyed Demon. So probably a little bit of that going into the devil wanting to get Sam's body and stuff. I really enjoyed all of that very much. I think that's probably my favorite.
The vessels.
Yeah, for me, I want to say that probably because my favorite character was introduced season 4. Castiel is my favorite character of the show. I loved that. What was his? He called it meat suit. What was his name? What was the actual?
Jimmy Novak.
What was his like?
Jimmy Novak.
Jimmy Novak.
Yeah.
Jimmy Novak. Yeah. So like when he had Jimmy's memories, and so like as he progresses, he's like he doesn't know, he still doesn't know if it's like the human side or the angel side or somewhere in between. Like when he's learning, because this was the first time I guess he's been on Earth, so he's learning about the humans and everything about Earth and. The whole time that Dean shows him porn for the first time, I was like,
I think Brian was sold on that episode. He watched it with me, but I think that was the year you were like, okay. The other part about that is that it kind of solidified the fact that it really like the whole show was about family, but it was another brother sort of like Cass rounded it out and he played like the mediator. He played the mediator. He kind of played that, he kind of always took Dean's side. I mean, he was the balance, but he kind of always took Dean's side in a way, unless Dean was really wrong. And then when he took Sam's side, you were like, okay, well,
Dean's wrong.
Shit's real. And so,
I mean, out of all the characters, though, he had the greatest like entrance. I mean, the barn with the lights going,
His entrance is incredible.
And then the wings.
I mean, if
And
you
the
think
wings
about
would,
it, like,
yeah.
that was
And then
like,
he got stuck doing that voice for another, 11 seasons.
I mean, Omar Harris
so
and
sore.
Nicole, we're wrestling fans. That was like a wrestling entrance,
Yeah, definitely.
Undertaker vibes. So
Oh, it's so funny because the first time I actually heard Misha Collins' real voice, like the one he speaks in, I was like, what the heck? It was funny because I had seen him previously in the movie that he did with
it was where he plays a serial
the
killer.
girl from that 70s show. He was a serial killer.
Laura Prepon?
Yeah. And it was Carla, something in Carla and I can't remember his name, but they were like they were the couple serial killer.
Yes. I know what you're talking about, and I can't think of it either.
That was my introduction to Misha Collins.
Oh.
And then he was on the show, and I'm like, I've seen him before. And so I looked it up, and I was like, holy crap. And it was a completely different character. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And then I heard him talk, and I was like, oh, God. Like, he actually can act.
And then when we found out that, what his real name is, it's actually Dimitri.
What? Really?
Yeah, Misha Collins. His real name is Dimitri.
Okay, today I learned. Thank you.
His name is Dimitri, and then his last name is
it's Russian.
Unpronounceable. It's Russian. It's probably the only Russian I like at this point.
It's Krishnik.
Yeah.
And it's like, where does that come from? How do you get Collins out of that?
Well, I think he wanted to sound more American. I mean, if you think about Hollywood actors, a lot of the names that we know is not their names.
Makes sense.
Right, they have the state.
No, I mean the first one that comes to mind is Tom Cruise. I mean, that's not his name.
Well,
And then there's the odd person that does have like their real name, and people like my husband here, who I had this conversation with last night over Benedict Cumberbatch. Why wouldn't he choose a more Americanized name? Why do they need to?
See Sherlock.
Why do they need
to? And he smiled. It fits him. It's some gravitas that comes with the way you say Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
So Omar, I think you said your first 5 seasons were kind of your story arc. What about you, Darius? What was yours?
I really love everything that happened with the mark of Cain in the first Blade. I was a big fan of it. It's like just the thought of like there's the mark that gave, because I don't go into like I didn't go into the lore that much until they introduced him to the show. So I was just researching it, and I was just like, wow, there's a real like deep lore about the mark of Cain in the first Blade, and I was so like just happy with how that turned out.
Yeah.
Even the lore with what happened with Demon Dean, I was like, wait, the mark can do that too? Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, and when we get to the lore section, we'll of course bring up the question about what like how much of the lore is based on like real biblical versus made up biblical. Yeah. But Kelly, what about you? Season story arc?
The first 5 seasons, I feel like it just feels like such a really tightly plotted. Not a lot of shows can do that where they stretch it. I mean, I know it wasn't all film, but where they stretch a story out over 5 seasons and it feels like a complete beginning, middle, and end. And those first 5 seasons, same here. Like, I'm glad they continued because there were some good story arcs, and some of my favorite episodes happened later, and some of my favorite characters came along later. But those first 5 seasons were just perfect.
What about you, Cara?
Oh, yikes! I've been thinking about that while you guys have been talking. Probably, the first 5 season story arc would be the best. And I don't know if I go with season 7 Leviathans or the British Men of Letters as just totally ridiculous, but the like Kelly said, the beginning it's so tightly written, Omar said, it's a beginning, middle, end. I could understand it ending there, but I'm glad it didn't, because now I have a lot more to hang my hat on.
Right. So
anytime there's a show that goes past 5 seasons, I think that there's those years where it's just not
everything's a hit.
It's not par, and then they got to like work themselves back up to where they had initially started. And I feel like that's kind of what happened with season 14 and 15. Like they worked back into our hearts.
Yeah.
Like we were back to that. We were back to that norm that we were so used to.
Yeah. So Willow, I know that you said you haven't really deep dived into Supernatural.
I haven't because, well, one time, I guess I have a lot of time now, but there's just so much on Netflix to watch. I actually started watching Sherlock yesterday, but I tried watching Supernatural, and I just found it was way too easy to walk away from and kind of use it as background noise more so than being stuck and watching it show to show. And I just couldn't get myself interested enough to actually pay attention to it enough. Although people are like, it gets better, believe me, it gets better, keep watching and keep watching. I'm just like, if it hasn't grasped me by now, I don't think I'm going to sit there and watch it.
I want to do part of that, if I could interject on that, is that the music, I think, plays a huge part in the show. And when you watch it on Netflix, they don't have the rights to everything, so the music changes. Yes. And part of that is what gripped me to begin with, and like had me keyed in. So watching them on Netflix, I'm like, oh, geez, it kind of does a disservice. I definitely encourage you to borrow DVDs from a friend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or something, because that's honestly the best way to do it.
I didn't realize that. What music's missing for the Netflix version?
There's a lot of different change. For example, that Doppelganger episode that I love so much, they changed it from
was it Inagata
song that they played originally in the sewers to just some random like generic rock like sounding song, and it just takes away from the entire scene.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did they do that to the werewolf episode too?
Yeah. And you don't think about it until you've watched like one of the repeats of Instant on TNT, and you're like, oh yeah, that was different. Because I would always listen to the music, like the soundtrack for Supernatural is like the soundtrack from my life. Like all the music that I grew up listening to, and I was like, I never knew the name of the song. I just knew the song. And so it was like, oh my God, like I've heard that song, that song. And so all of these songs became like the tapestry of the show. And then when it was in a different place every time, like there was a different place they went to. So the episode where they went to Flint, Michigan, now it cracks me up because I sat there and I'm like, I know that's not Flint because that's not Flint. But it was hilarious because it was a musical episode, wasn't it?
Yes.
So it was the musical episode about the teenagers that wrote the whole musical and everything. And I was like, first of all, it's amazing that that's the case because Flint is not the first time it's been that was the musical episode, because the musicals for Flint Northern was on Kristen Bell's musical show on Disney Plus. But so they were well known for musicals and all that. But I was like, none of that. There is no school like that. There is no
it doesn't look like that.
It doesn't look like that. But I was like, hey, they paid homage to my own town. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool. So
yep. And Rose mentioned in the comments that many of the single episodes later are absolute gems. And there are some that if I had a list, I'd be like, yep, that one's awesome. That one's awesome. I can't pick them out by name at the moment.
Yeah.
So before we jump into lore, I want to do something fun here. I'm going to go around to each one of you.
It's probably a good thing you're controlling this because I clearly have no capability.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with Kelly. If you were to try to convince Willow to watch Supernatural, how would you do it?
I would tell you to watch. Do you like Scooby-Doo?
Yes.
Okay, watch the Supernatural episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's way late, but just watch it, and that gives you an idea of the wild.
What?
Oh yes, the wild and
The Wild.
guys.
Yeah.
I think it's
We'll
season
never know what she was
11.
going to say.
I want to say episode 3,
I think it's
maybe Scooby Natural.
Okay.
No, it's season 13.
season 13. And it was episode.
It was like the halfway break near.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
it was later.
yeah. Same question to you, Omar.
I would say season 1 Scarecrow episode.
Ooh.
You get a sense of a bigger world in that episode.
Okay.
Things start, it's still Monster of the Week X-Files style, but you get a sense of an overarching plot for the first time. And I think, is that not where John comes back into the picture? Or is that a little bit later? A couple
Yeah,
episodes.
where he visits the psychic.
Because like up until that point, they're still looking for him. That's the driving force. And then I think that's like, if he's not in that episode, that's like the first clue that they're on the right track
Right.
with him. And so you get a sense of the bigger players involved.
Okay.
And it's more clear, like they give us more information about why Azazel, the yellow-eyed demon, was after Sam in the first place, and why Sam has the powers that he has, and so it kind of like it actually starts the story. I like other story arcs. I think that started happening.
Yeah. I think it starts to really set up the driving narrative for the next 3 seasons. Also, it's creepy as hell, man. They really do push the envelope for network TV at that time. Like, you couldn't do anything, and it was pretty creepy. Well done.
But that's also a really good episode to show the family dynamic, because the brothers do split because family sucks sometimes. But then it's the same family is what brought them back together, of course, just in time to save the day. And personally, it creeps the bejeebers out of me, but it's a good episode. Like Omar said, shows you that bigger world that you're getting a taste of.
Okay.
The Wendigo episode was the episode that actually really scared, like it scared me.
Oh, that was
And at that time, so the show was on at like 9 or 10.
Yeah. Speaking of this show, I think out of every show that's been on TV ever, is the only TV show that's been on every day of the week.
Yep.
It was on a Monday, it was on a Tuesday, it was on a Wednesday, Thursday, and a Friday.
So it
At one
depends
point-
on seasons.
At one point, Smallville and Supernatural was like the Thursday night block.
Yeah, and then it was Arrow and Supernatural.
Oh yeah, that was a great time too.
So it's really like gone past like generations of TV, really,
Yeah,
if you think about it.
I literally grew up with this show.
Yeah, so
And
Derek,
of social media, which when we get to the fandom section, I'll kind of touch on that. But it's been it's outlived MySpace, that's for sure. My
I did
journal.
not have a mustache when that show started.
Darius, you're the last one to. How would you convince Willow to watch Supernatural?
Well, everybody talk about the drama and whatnot. I think if you want to get a good grasp on the comedy and the meta of the show, you have to watch the episode when they go into reality and they become like they're the actors.
Yeah,
Like, the episode
The French
is so
mistake.
good. Yes, it
It's like
is so
Misha.
good.
His name is Misha.
It's like literally every time I see
Misha.
or just the episode, I laugh every time.
You're Polish now?
Yeah.
Padalecki?
Padalecki. No, I think it's Padalecki. And it
And
was
then
just
they open Jared's trailer and see Genevieve there, and he's just like, "You banging Ruby?" I think he said or something like that. Like,
You married Ruby?
yeah, you married Ruby. It's hilarious. Like it gets me every time.
Yeah, and can I just throw out, because since you threw out Ruby, I found her from the TV show Wildfire.
yeah.
That is a great show. It is Canadian based. I believe it aired on ABC Family here in the States. It was about horses. Totally check it out.
It was such a good show. And then, so the thing, like, we watched it's a YouTube channel. It's called Wayward Winchester. And
Yeah.
so the whole show kind of like highlights certain things, and they pulled a lot of the things that they had posted during the time of the finale. And Genevieve says, it's 15 years of Jared's life, but it was where I met him. It was all the things. And she's like, thank you so much for taking a chance on me. And it was like, she's like, nobody really knew who I was, and they took a chance on me. And
then
it became such a huge part of their lives.
11 years of marriage.
They're together for 11 years, so, and she's like, 11 years and 3 beautiful kids later, like, I think it's kind of amazing that it really was a family business.
Like they both
and,
met their wives through Supernatural.
Yep, and they act like brothers. It's hilarious. There's an entire like section, like a cast or episode of the show or what Wayward Winchesters, where they're talking about how they accidentally call each other by their names.
Oh yeah, in the episodes, and sometimes it slips.
So there's an episode where the guy inside the food truck says, "Here you go, Jensen," and you can hear him say Jensen, but they slow it down so it kind of sounds like Gents. So they managed to snip off the end of the name to be able to sound like it. And then there was the time when Jared or Jensen called him just Jam.
Yeah, and do you remember the episode where Chuck is in the room with his sister and he's about to suck her power in?
Yeah.
And they're carrying Jack through the hallway, and then Dean gets mad and holds the gun to Sam.
Pulls the gun on Sam.
Yeah. Well, he was about to call him Jared, but then
Sam.
But it made it into the episode that aired on TV.
You can hear if you really listen, you can hear it.
Yeah.
Well, that's just lazy editing.
But it's funny.
It's Supernatural, so it's okay.
I'm a mom. There's a little bit of meta there too, but I'm a mom, and I'm like, I know who I'm talking to, but I will still say the wrong kid's name. And I'm like, I know you're Oliver. I'm sorry. Like, Oliver. Like that's. Sorry, guys. Like,
so I'm gonna take this one because I know there's a few of you. All right, so we're gonna hop into the lore now. So, Whittle, you're gonna enjoy this because lore stuff, especially if you're into even outside of Supernatural, they bring a lot of lore. Native Americans.
And I was a huge X-Files fan back in the day, and I loved watching Sci Factor when that was on.
Well, if there were things about X-Files that a lot of the X-Files monsters and things ended up on Supernatural. And if you watch some of the same episodes, a lot of the lore overlapped. And so when you think about the monsters of the week, there was the whole like iron can, like
Dispel ghosts.
dispel the ghost, and it was salt, salt and burn the bones, and
then of
so-
course the woman in white that people always
So-
see driving down the road.
the urban
Mhm.
legends of like
Urban
Ireland,
legends. Awesome.
and the monsters. I think the monsters from like the movie. What was the name of that episode? Where they were on the film set, and it was the haunted. The monsters.
Oh,
The Universal monsters.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ah,
That was really cool. I loved that they did something different with vampires than what you normally
yeah.
see.
I was going to mention that. Yep.
That was unique.
I was so happy when there were vampires and werewolves. I was like, yay!
And they're not sparkly.
No! And-
And their werewolves were different too. Like they kind of, Supernatural really did their own spin on werewolves and vampires when those are kind of a little more regularly tread like horror tropes, and the vampires were harder to kill. And
if you really think about it, the lore in like the actual lore of vampires and of werewolves, like if you think about the Native American lore, it's way more correct in the way that it was portrayed on Supernatural than it's been portrayed in most tropes as far as horror movies are concerned.
Yep.
So like Dead Man's Blood, the finale, as far as like the dead man's blood on the bullet, is like, well, we know that can technically kill a vampire because they don't ever bleed somebody dry. If you're dead, they no longer can feed because you're dead. So, but I just think that a lot of those, the monster of the week kind of things brought in a lot of the lore, and the fact that it repeats, like it comes back around every single time. Like when you thought that the Wendigo was gone, the Wendigo came back, and you saw the Djinn again, and like there were a lot of things that
Jim
came
is
back.
Oh,
And but it's never the same one. I mean, it's a whole community out there, and you get into some of these other vampire movies, and it's like, oh yeah, just this little town has a group of vampires, and they're nowhere else on the planet, and it's just not believable.
Was that a Lost Boys reference?
I don't know what you mean. I don't live in Santa Clara.
The only thing bad about Santa Clara is all this.
All the damn vampires.
Yeah.
I was a vampire diaries reference.
That was cool.
Omar, are you drinking already?
Yes, this is coquito that I made that was left over. So I decided to have some.
Oh,
That's
man.
appropriate for a Supernatural panel, I think.
All I have is pie.
I don't have the PBR, so I can't quite do the Bobby, but I'll drink my coquito just fine.
I really like what they did with other gods from like Greek and Roman and Egyptian.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, Kripke was on record saying that one of his inspirations for Supernatural was the novel American Gods, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And in American Gods, Shadow Moon goes on a road trip across America dealing with these gods and their different forms and all the supernatural aspects that just seep into Americana. And the show, especially in the early seasons, does that really well. And then you revisit it when they start bringing in the different gods and just showing like the power of belief gives them, determines how powerful they are. And that's the hierarchy. I thought that was brilliant.
I
And
agree.
the Hammer of the Gods episode in season 5 was just awesome because you've got Indian, you've got Nordic, you've got all these different gods. And it's like, wait, they're like even existing in this universe, and it's not just about the Christian mythos. It's like everybody's there. And then you've got the late episode in season 15, or was it late 14, where they find Lady Luck. And she kind of explains why you have all these different gods, even though Chuck created everything. So those are pretty awesome, meta. If you really just want to sit there and think about, the way of the world, and get into that. Otherwise, it's a really fun show with this, get your popcorn.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. She brought up Chuck. Chuck is
popcorn and your Kleenex. You're gonna cry.
Like the almighty God himself. But in the show, they meet him, and he's an author, and he's writing the supernatural books.
Which was another meta episode. In that same vein, though, it kind of helped push forward the show past those first 5 initial seasons and push us through the seasons that were kind of, like you watched because you loved the guys.
You
loved that dynamic, and you didn't watch because there was a lot of value in the arc.
I do have to say, though, that Supernatural, even though it has 15 seasons and there are some seasons that are meh, the meh seasons of Supernatural are still better than a lot of the meh seasons of Law and Order that's been on for like 500 years.
Yeah.
It's spun off 25 times.
Yeah.
But I think to the core of that is really like the roots. And, when they say, saving people, hunting things, the family business, it's like legitimately the reason that they are hunting, and that's why their life as children is that, and why they pretty much retake up the mantle, when they're older, is that, it was the beginning of their lives. Like the fact that this demon came and took their mother to get to Sam was this understanding that's what set Dean in motion. Right. Dean was prepared to protect his brother at all costs. And part of that, like, you go away to college, you're safe, but I need your help because now dad's gone. And that whole, like, that solidified the family role, is that it's the family business, but the show starts with the brothers and it ends with the brothers.
Yeah, it starts because they're young, and of course, dad is John Winchester, Jeffrey D. Morgan, and then Samantha Smith plays Mary Winchester, and the way that she goes out is the same way Sam's girlfriend Jessica goes out.
Yep.
And nitpicking here, I kind of wish that, well, we'll talk about it during the finale, but I was hoping that Jessica would come back, because the way that she was taken. But
we know
COVID really messed up a lot with the finale.
Yeah.
We can get to that later.
Yeah.
But
when we
ruined a lot for the finale.
But you want to just add to the lore real quick. Like, we got actual biblical lore. So we got Michael. We got Cain. Zechariah. Who was the trickster? Gabriel. Right?
Gabriel.
Loved him.
You got Abaddon. You got Lucifer.
Four Horsemen.
Yep.
Lucifer. And I think we should, if we're going to talk about Lucifer, like, I think there's a huge shout out that has to go to Mark Pellegrino, because
other actor could have pulled it off.
There is no other actor that could have played this version of Lucifer. And in the later seasons, when he was Nick, and when he was Nick versus when he was Lucifer, it was like there was a complete transformation. Like, they might have been dressed the same, but the mannerisms, the way he talked, everything was the difference. Like, for whatever reason, I'm like, that's not Lucifer, that's Nick.
And I love the twist that we find out that Nick wasn't a goody two shoe that we were led to believe, that Nick killed his family, and that's why Lucifer chose him.
And that's why he couldn't remember. And so when he finally did have the memories, and that's why he went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and that's why I think Lucifer probably took over. But I mean, I was very grateful for his return.
Yeah, and then I was familiar with Mark from No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan.
Right.
Way back then.
Yeah, in that movie, he played Hulk Hogan's brother in that movie.
Yep. Have that movie on DVD.
He's a very good actor.
So yeah,
when he popped up in Tomorrow People as Zedekiah, I said,
yeah, he was
this guy. Yeah, he can literally play any role and just completely own it, like any role.
And so this was a lot of people, like at the beginning of the show, was like, oh, that's the kid from the soap opera. And so I had been watching Brady. I'd watched Brady most of my childhood on Days of Our Lives. And then he was in a movie called Devour, which was not great. However, it's still...
Dude, My Bloody Valentine 3D was the best use of 3D and Jensen. That whole twist.
So
that was,
and I'm telling you, like I was like, okay, well, he's Dean, and I've never seen him really in anything other than his previous stuff, like when he was younger, like way younger. And so I was like, okay, well, he's Dean, and he plays it well, and that's what he'll get typecast as. And then I saw him in My Bloody Valentine, and that is my favorite horror movie of all time. Because I was like, holy crap, he can play something else. Like, yes. And so then and then
the twist at the end, you're like,
oh, so I was like, what? But yeah.
And then of course, Jared was in Friday the 13th remake.
Yeah, which was actually good.
It wasn't
came
bad.
out that year, right?
It came out
they both came out the same year?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yeah.
Definitely some interesting death scenes that they had put into that movie. So it's very creative.
Watching the Friday the 13th remake and thinking, man, Jared looks huge in this. And then
he is huge.
Comparing him to scale with the guy they picked for Jason, which I think was Derek Mears. And I was like, oh my God, that guy's a giant. They grew him in a lap.
Just Jared about it. I was like, Jared's like 6'4", 6'5", I think.
Yeah, and just beastly, completely chilled out, right? Like compared to like the first season. And then you put him up against the guy playing Jason Voorhees, and he looks small.
It's like 6 foot.
I will always I will always like Kane Hodder as Jason Voorhees.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. There's no argument here.
Okay, so our next little program here, someone's going to go on a rant, and then you guys can jump in.
Okay.
All right.
So, the last season, and I understand that COVID jacked a lot of stuff up. And we know that the season's rounding out and that the show is coming to an end. Now, there has been, since season 4, a bromance between Dean and Cass. Like, we know. Like, there's that tension. Now, here's my problem with everything. Like, I am completely understanding. I'm an ally and a member and everything of the LGBTQ community. But I don't believe that in this episode, when Cass does say, I love you, Dean, and that Misha did come out and say that he felt that it was more of a homosexual love. But I'm really upset that it had to be people getting all pissy about, well, why didn't you let them kiss? And why didn't Dean say he love you? And blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, look, and this is my take, and this is where I'm at. So if you understand the show and you watch the 15 minutes, Dean has said, I love you to one person in the entire 15 years of the show until the finale. One person. And that was his mother. He told Mary that he hated her, and then later on he says, "But I do love you." And so that one episode, one time. There's 500 other times when they've done things, because actions are louder than words, that Dean told, without saying "I love you," Sam that he loves him. There's like it's out there. It was in my deep dive of like rabbit holes, Supernatural 2 a.m. last night. So it's out there. So I heard, and I said, I'm telling you, I've never heard Dean tell anybody that he loves them. Ever. So like, well, why didn't he say "I love you" back to Cass? And so some very interesting translators decided in the Spanish dubbed episode that they would. And I said, if you really understand, one, it's two sides. So I'm trying to make sense of what's happening in my head right now. So one, Castiel is an angel, and yes, he might have he might have memories of Jimmy, whatever, but he's an angel, and everything earthbound is different for him. Like, he's not just seeing Dean, he's seeing into Dean's soul. So when he says, "I love you because you're the most compassionate, most wonderful," whatever, he said a million things in that episode. And I said, I didn't feel like it needed to be rendered to a sexual relationship. Right. And I was very upset that people were like, well, they're queer baiting and this is happening for 5 years, whatever. No, they weren't. He is an angel of the Lord. He can see into Dean's soul. This kind of connection happens with certain people. Like, if you have a soul connection with somebody, you love them. And that transcends gender, that transsexuality. And I'm sorry, I don't believe it needs to be rendered to sexuality. You should have just let them kiss. No. That's against everything the show is about. That's one. Two, where was my other one? I just kind of shit.
I mean, if there was some reason for them to kiss, there would have been more skin in 15 episodes, 15 years of episodes. And there isn't. It's not a sexual show.
And what kills me is, he said when they're in purgatory looking for the blossom, the Leviathan blossom, what did the hell?
Yeah, Leviathan blossom.
Whatever the thing they call it. Leviathan blossom, when they're looking for it and they get separated. So Dean is separated from him, and he says everything he needs to do. You're my best friend. Dean said everything except for the words "I love you" when he talked there. So if you're not following the show and you don't understand the characters and you don't understand where the show is going, you're going to assume something. Mm-hmm. That whatever. He's never going to say "I love you," because when he says "I love you," the people die. Everybody he loves dies.
Yep.
Everybody. So he's not going to say it out loud. If he feels it's some sort of curse, he's not going to say it out loud. So he's like, "Cass, I feel like I have to say something to you." And Cass said, "I heard your prayer. You don't have to say anything to me. I heard you." And so there's that understanding right there, that there was that mutual understanding of where they were. And so I'm upset, one, that everything is always forever relegated to sex. Like, that's the only way we can understand that somebody loves somebody, is there has to be a sexual attraction. Why can't you just love the human? Why can't you just love the spirit? Why can't you just love the soul of that person and just let it be? I was very upset about this. And that was part of what made the deep dive into the craziness that was last night for 2.5 hours. But I seriously spent 40 minutes looking for places where Dean said, "I love you."
He just doesn't.
And he said, "I love you" one time, and it was never the 3 words in succession. To his mother one time. And then in the finale, when he tells Sam that he loves him. And that legitimately was like the end of my life right there. I was like 17 minutes in and I thought I was going to die.
Oh my God.
It was going through the same death as my poor wonderful Dean. So that's my rant. I don't know where everybody else is, but
Anybody else want to rant?
Angels
You
even
pretty much
have
said
an
it for me.
actual gender? Like, their meat suits have genders, but do angels have genders?
Well, and that's why I was like, angels don't have they're heavenly whatever.
They're genderless.
They're genderless, aren't they? Like, I guess maybe their spirit could be one or the other, but we are not going to have the same reference, the same frame of
I mean,
reference.
they proved that in Dogma, didn't they?
I mean,
About as anatomically correct as it can go.
at what point doesn't Castiel say something about, I'm a giant, being of light and energy, and I'm taller than the Chrysler Building or something? So,
And like we've seen throughout the show that angels will take whatever host they accepts them and is compatible with them regardless of their gender. So I don't think angels really have a gender. So an angel can't actually be gay or straight. Like,
right.
Well, and I'm saying that that's the whole thing behind the show is that how can you sexualize something that doesn't have it? You can't be relegated to that. Like, love is deeper and bigger than that.
true.
You research some of those fanfics, you can definitely sexualize them.
Yeah, let's
And
not.
I mean, we've seen that angels can have sex because I forget the name of the angel, but there was the one angel who had like a bunch of orgies. So yes, angels. There was an angel that had sex. And,
Like carnal pleasure, yeah. There's the whole thing, but
Well, the trickster Gabriel, he would.
oh,
Wow.
Gabriel, and then there was one other angel. What was his name? The guy who unsunk the Titanic.
Balthazar.
Balthazar.
Yeah.
Thank you. You said that, and then I didn't register.
Sebastian Roche's character, right?
Yes.
Yep. So like, yes, angels can be sexual beings, but also Castiel didn't. So he shared a kiss with Meg, but other than that, we didn't really see him experiencing sexual feelings for anyone.
He did love Jack's mom, though.
And he did have a encounter with a Reaper.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Okay, so I guess Castiel was.
But it's in a human form, so you're taking on characteristics of the human that you're in.
And he has all of Jimmy's memories, which that's
Right.
where I'm like, if Jimmy was straight, then that might be a catalyst for the female interactions he had. But because he's genderless, really, that energy is, he's able to see into the soul of that person, and he sees truly what is happening inside Dean and the flawed character that Dean is.
Oh, I know what you were going to say. You said you were going to talk about why he had a stronger bond with Dean over Sam.
What did I say last night?
Like, raised him from hell.
I mean, I was going to say he raised him from perdition.
And so I think that was that whole thing, like, it raised you from perdition, and there was that long soliloquy.
I think Dean and Cass had more cases together too. As Willow, it's really funny. They go on cases and they're FBI agents, but their names are famous rock singers.
Oh, God.
Agent Mercury. I love that.
Until the last episode.
Well, and also Kaz had sort of an aversion to Sam for a long time because of the Dean blood connection.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so what I'm going to say about the fandom is, to some extent, I understand their hurt feelings because a lot of shows do the queer baiting where they kind of hint at it and it's never stated.
Or the character dies.
Or the character dies.
Yeah.
And there still is a problem with representation. So I do get the hurt feelings there, but on the other hand, I don't think that made sense for these particular characters for them to go the sexualized route. I think Dean and Kaz had a profound love for each other, but it wasn't necessarily sexual.
Right. I think the payoff is always going to be better when things come off organically. I understand the desperation to want representation, being of a minority, like I constantly crave it, but
For sure.
I would rather like an organic character come through representing my particular group versus like something that's a little more shoehorned, right? Like I don't want them to recast Bruce Wayne as a guy who came over from Puerto Rico. Like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I feel like we got a lot of that when we got Charlie, though. Like I feel like that representation, like it represented a female character who was very much okay with herself, and she
fell in love with Dorothy.
Unapologetic. Like
I loved her.
Right, and it felt natural, right? It felt easy to put in, versus just kind of appeasing almost a like fan shipping wouldn't have felt right for a finale. I
didn't want it to be. I wanted it to be fan service that fans of the show for 15 years would understand and feel immensely great.
And then also doing it this way leaves it up for interpretation, so everyone can essentially be happy. If you really look at it, like you can take away what you want to take away from it, and no one can take that from you. If you thought that "I love you" meant something more, okay, who's going to argue with you?
Right.
You know, if you didn't think it did, okay.
I also think the reason why they asked that, correct me if I'm wrong, did Dean and the Darkness ever have anything sexual? Like, did they ever do, did him and Amaya ever do anything?
She kissed him, and there was an attraction. Like, when they were together.
That's probably why they wanted the romance to connect, because, you know, the Amaya and Dean had that kind of unsung connection that was like, well, you let me out of wherever I was locked up in, so now I'm just connected to you just in genuine. So maybe that's why they wanted this payoff. You know, maybe that's why they wanted it, because, you know, we saw with Amaya and Dean where it's like, you know, you could clearly tell there was something there. And, you know, they kissed at one point, like you said. So I can, like Kelly said, I can see the two sides to the coin. You know, I can see that they want this payoff because it has been done in the show before. Even when Sam and Ruby ended up like having sex, that it was the weirdest sex scene I've ever seen. But also like so weird. But it was also like it was a payoff. People was kind of shipping that from the beginning when her name escapes me. She plays Laurel Lance. Yes, when she played Ruby at first, everybody was like, "Oh, well, she kind of have a thing for this person and that person." You know, definitely flirted with Sam here and there. And then I think they either kind of wanted it with was it Meg that first was following Sam around? So they kind of wanted Sam to do something with a demon chick like his entire existence in the show. So then when he finally got it, it was like, yes, we got our payoff. So I think that's because they seen it happen so many times during the show is why they was like, well, come on, give us our Destiel payoff because you gave it to us before, so do it again. So that's
the weirdest thing you've ever seen. You should read some Frank Miller Daredevil comics.
Just annoyed
by it. Oh no, it's definitely annoying because it's just like there's this entitlement with a lot of fandoms, right? Where it's like we help push this show through. And especially when it comes to some stuff that they wrote or they put together in their heads, how this is how it's supposed to go because we wrote it. And I'm just like, but you're not getting paid to write this show. So I mean, one can be said about
this particular fandom
is over them bowing to shippers of a heterosexual couple, I'm gonna say.
But this particular fandom in particular has like some serious power, man. I've never seen anything quite like it.
Oh,
like
definitely.
If there was a single like threat of 11 inches for Dean, that chick is dead next week.
Yeah.
Like
Joe died.
Well, that's why we lost Garth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people said he's trying to replace Bobby, and he was getting death threats. Garden,
wow.
the actor, I can't think
Was
of his name,
similar?
said, we're done. I'm not
DJ calls.
doing it.
But like at the core of I think like when you love a character that much, like, because I have a friend on Instagram who's like, okay, it's been a week. If the show's not gone, it's still on everywhere. Every day, if you want to watch it, it's on. Mm-hmm. So he's like, you can tame down your stories. Like my Instagram stories would be something supernatural. And so I said, I can't help it. It's like you feel like you know someone,
right?
Like you're connected to that fandom, and I understand wanting that payoff, but my ultimate payoff would have been he gets to start a family. That would have been the ultimate payoff, but I always felt like he deserved to go to heaven, and it should always be the heaven he deserved, and it should always be this perfect place where he's reunited with the people he loved. Because for me, Sam was always the one that could commit, and Dean couldn't because Dean was committed to the entire world.
Right.
And I think that part of the show, and maybe that's why everybody wanted it to wanted the payoff, because then it would have been them in the same vein. Like, Castiel was committed to humankind after he met Dean, and they were on the same page as far as that was concerned. So they had a common love.
Dean introduced Cass to porn and pizza. So.
Yes. And strippers.
Yeah.
Oh, and pie. And pie.
So there's a lot of those shared experiences. I think maybe that's why we wanted it so badly.
So do you want to talk about the finale first, or you want to talk about the fandom and how we've kept this show? How many years was this show on the bubble, and it just kept chugging along? I
was going to say,
that show's going to get canceled.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
What?
Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got notes. So, like I was saying, this show has been around through multiple iterations of social media. And so when it first came into being, LiveJournal was a big thing. How many of you guys remember LiveJournal?
Yeah.
So
I still had dial-up at the time. I did not have real internet.
I had a MySpace account with my top 5 music.
My top 8.
Yeah.
LiveJournal predated MySpace. So it was crazy. So LiveJournal was like this journaling thing, like for anyone who doesn't remember, who's younger than me, which is probably a lot of people. And it was like, so it was like blogging, but connected. It was awesome. And there were communities. And so there was a lot, that was where a lot of the first Supernatural fans were shared. We're not going to quite go into the pairings before Cass came along.
Ooh.
Yeah, everyone knows, or most people know. And if you don't know, you don't want to know. And so the fandom, like we talked about, is powerful. And I think that the good thing about this fandom, the show is about family, like blood and found. And I think the fandom's about family too. Like, so many people, myself included, have found friends and like just found family through it. And the Supernatural fandom just kept moving. Like, they moved to MySpace, they moved to Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, of course. They adopted Team Free Will, that term, as soon as it came out in that season 5 episode. And I think it's really interesting. I was reading about some of the, like, a few fan-run conventions before the creation came in and started their more expensive cons, which, from what I've heard, are really cool and worth every penny. But it's been really interesting how the cast has interacted with the fans. So, just like they really interact with fans on social media, and then like in around in 2010, so around season 10, Jared formed his Always Keep Fighting charity, which was basically to raise awareness for depression and suicide, because Jared struggles with that. And thank you, wonderful visual. And just, I think it's really cool that a lot of fans struggle with that too. And just that they're really reaching out and using their celebrity for good. And then in 2011,
that's Jared. He deals with mental illness.
Well, and he deals severely with anxiety and depression, and so.
And like,
It's
the TV in the background.
TV in the background.
Oh, that's not me.
But so when we talk about AKF, like when we talk about Always Keep Fighting, I was like, it was something I had to jump on board with really, really quickly. I think that is probably when I had a lot more understanding of probably Sam and Jared, because I deal with the same thing. And I don't have the same. Yeah, I think it affects all of us differently. And so I was 100% like bought into this conversation about depression and anxiety. And then I think I love Jensen even more because he would always reach out. Like the first part of quarantine when, they were video chatting with each other, and he was like, just, don't give up and don't let this, suck you into a hole. And, like he was constantly reaching out to him and constantly making it something that they could do together, that he could help him through it. And that it never was an issue. It was always like, I understand you and I care.
I mean, even like that incident that we try not to talk about that Jared had last year in Austin at the bar that he owns. Jensen was there to kind of, ease him out of that, because I guess Jared got into a fight and the police were called. Yeah, it was a whole issue. And that goes back to the roots of the show being family. It's like, this is what they are brothers. They are Sam and Dean.
Yes.
So they're always, looking out for each other.
It's the beauty of I think what we all want family to be, and some of us don't have.
And that's what, as Kelly was saying, that's what the community, like I follow the creation page just to see people upload photos and them, like, it's like they become family. Like you see these group of girls and guys, like they will like fly to Vegas, and then they'll fly to Austin, and then they'll fly to wherever the next show is, and they'll do it together.
I don't know what they do for a job, because Jesus. But I think that was the whole point, is that you have this shared universe that you live in. And I think that's why comic fans, that's why we all gravitate to our fandom, is we have this shared understanding. We always have something to talk about. And we always have something to say about it, and how it's changed us or made us feel better about our circumstances.
Yeah, and Omar will say that's how it is in the horror community too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So Kelly, you have some photos.
I was just gonna say, well, can you pull up the photos?
Yes.
5 years ago, I got a group together. Some of them were people I didn't really know that well, and now are really good friends. So speaking of making found family, now they're like family to me, to do a big Supernatural group shoot. And
wrong one.
To show off.
Just give me a sec. Sorry.
Oh no, that's
sharing the wrong.
While you pull those up, I also want to mention, so in 2011, Misha started Gishwas, more of the Supernatural community, where he did, so it's the greatest international scavenger hunt the world has ever seen.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Gish,
yes. And so people across the world just doing crazy scavenger hunt things. I participated one year, and every year he chooses a different charity for it. And just
look at that.
So can you explain this photo right here?
Oh, is it?
It's the group photo.
Is it pop? I'm sorry. Is
I'm
it
not seeing it. Let's see. Is it?
It should be. Oh,
Oh, she popped out.
oh.
She'll
There
come
she
back. So
It's like
everybody here is dressed as a character.
Oh yeah, you can.
Sorry,
spot
did you
Jeff
want me to
right
pop
in the
that
middle.
back up?
Yeah, bring that back up.
A lot of
Yeah, you see the
flannel.
woman in white in the left.
Okay.
Ash is in the middle, right?
Is that the one with Ramon's T-shirt?
Yeah, I think so.
But he's
Sorry.
no, he's got dark hair.
It's not
Ash is kind of
but,
blonde.
somebody else. I can't remember. But I saw the picture, like, for whatever
Sorry.
reason. So StreamYard,
I keep popping up the wrong one. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
she's back. Kelly's back. Can you add her?
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go, Kelly.
Are you able to see it now?
Kelly, can you hear us?
I don't think so. The look on her face.
Kelly?
Woo, can you hear us?
Might have to refresh.
Yeah.
I want to say that the woman in white is mom. It's supposed to be mom.
Oh, yeah. I can
Mary.
see that now.
Blonde
Supposed to be
hair.
Mary. Yep. Don't.
Sorry, guys.
I like Castiel's wings. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see him now. Yep. Didn't notice him at first.
Oh, he's deaf. I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, who is he supposed to be in the middle? It's so stoicy. It's deaf.
They should have gave him a bag of potato chips.
Yeah.
Pickle chips.
It's like they dragged somebody's father out there. He clearly didn't want to be there. That's like, oh wait, no, that's death. Got it. That's nice.
These are really nice pictures.
Yeah.
I love hosting photo shoots like this. It brings out the talent of the cosplayers and the photographers.
And then wherever she went, like it fits super. Like it looks like they're on a set.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
That's
Mhm.
Oh man. It definitely looks like. Wow.
yeah. And I think where Kelly lives, because you can hear the "Don't you know" in her voice. She reminds me of Donna.
Mm.
Well, she's standard time, so
Yeah.
or central standard time. So.
I think she's in Wisconsin. So
Oh, no, Wisconsin is.
Wisconsin's on
Oh,
East Coast.
that's
time.
right. It's an hour. She back?
She might be. Back.
Maybe. Maybe she's back. No.
No shoes on or anything. That's commitment there.
For real.
What season was this? Because it would be pretty darn cold, I think, in Wisconsin. That better be summer.
Hopefully. Oh, that's angel wings is always a nice touch.
Looks like Uriel.
Yeah.
Uriel was such a. Well, I shouldn't
Yeah.
say that.
And then the actor that is in Supernatural, he's on the new TV show on CBS. He plays the psychiatrist on Evil. You know who I'm talking about? He played the Zachariah.
Mm.
And it's funny because his character's name on that show is his real name. He's a character actor. He's been on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
They did a really good
Cassio.
job on the wings.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always liked that John Constantine trench coat.
Absolutely.
I know where it came from.
There's Ash.
They did a really good job with this shoot.
Mm-hmm. This photographer is fantastic.
Yeah. And so when you think about fandoms, and what brings people together is this love of a group of characters that they're willing to spend money to put together costumes and to go to these places and, meet. Like, I'm not an extrovert to any shape or form. Like, I don't know.
You should tell the story
Yeah,
when you ran into Misha Collins eating a slice of pizza at Comic-Con.
So when we lived in Vegas, we would take the trek to San Diego. Brian had friends in San Diego. So we would stay there for the week, and we would go to San Diego Comic-Con. So it was the first time or the second time we'd gone.
Let's see. It was either 2007 or 2009. Probably
it was 2009.
2009.
So that was the year that Jared and Misha were at San Diego Comic-Con.
And
we literally sat in Hall H for a gajillion panels of nonsense to get to Supernatural.
Yeah, and Hall H is famous.
Amazing. Hall H is huge.
6,000 people.
So we're sitting in there, and we're halfway, we're at the halfway point, and I had to go to the bathroom. So I had to pee. So I run out of the thing and try to sneak back in, right?
No, the person would let you back in.
Oh, well, they let me back in, but then I felt like I had to sneak. So I'd go around all these people that couldn't get in. And so when the talent was coming out of the one side of the room to go into the thing, and he was coming out of he's probably coming from his photo op. And then he was coming down the hallway. And so I'm passing him this way. And I was literally 3 feet from Misha Collins, and he's chomping on pizza, in between.
Slice of pizza.
He's holding a slice of pizza, and he's eating it, and I'm like, Misha. And he's like, hey. And I'm like, Misha. And I'm like, oh my God. So I run back into the thing. I'm like, I just saw Misha eating pizza. Brian's like, cool. Bruce Campbell though.
Go ahead, tell that story.
So jealous. So I'm downstairs. God knows, I don't know what I was doing.
And I was going to the bathroom.
And so he was upstairs. You were in the exhibition hall though.
Yeah, I had
exhibition
to cut through.
And so he's cutting through. He's going to the bathroom. Comes back out, and he literally walks past Bruce Campbell.
I got to shake his
hand. And he's like, I just shook Bruce Campbell's hand. I'm never washing my hand. I said, I saw Misha eating pizza. So it was I was super jealous because of course I didn't touch anybody. He shakes Bruce Campbell's hand, but I'm like, Misha, and he's eating pizza. So that's the closest I'd ever been to the Supernatural, thing. But
did you show off that thing? That was your giveaway right there. That's you won that.
Problems. So when we went that year, this is my Magnificent Seven.
Here, let me pull this up, bigger screen.
So my Magnificent Seven, Winchester.
And it's exclusive to San Diego.
So it has never been out of the box. The tape is still there. I got problems. So yeah.
Is that the Dean when he's about to get sent to hell, but he's having that one night stand with the.
He's got his thumb. Yes,
yeah, I remember it because he was like, Sam, you coming in? He's like, no, you can have it. He just yeah, I remember that scene very vividly. Yep.
So and so this was it was it was a giveaway. I got it for free. I was like, I'm gonna die.
You know what? I'm going to try something. There we go.
And then this was my gift from Rose. This is the closest to an Impala I'm ever going to get, probably.
Oh no! Well, we have it. Okay.
Well, I have the 136, 140.
I'll go grab it in a minute.
Something I don't know.
I've been told I have one of those same exact models you have, Nicole, except my husband won't let me actually touch it. He says it's going to be wrapped and you can find it under the tree in a month.
Oh, well, that's not so bad. I just thought he'd never let you touch it.
Cool. I need it now. I need my car.
My husband did that to me with my Elvira car. I ended up intercepting it when it got here, and I'm like, well, I know my car's here.
Hey, no,
damn it.
Ignorance is bliss. I need to know what's under the Christmas tree.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, Willow, check the private chat.
All right.
So I think that maybe in that same vein, Was there anything that you wanted to add about the fandom, Kelly? Because we kind of, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry,
Well-
I kept dropping off.
You had internet problems and I went a little crazy.
No, it's fine. Funny thing. So, whenever it was that Mark returned and Lucifer returned, I remember Lucifer's back or Lucifer Rising started.
Oh,
Oh,
Okay.
it was
We-
hashtag Lucifer Rising. And I think she was going to talk about how Twitter actually removed the hashtag and absolutely would not allow the hashtag to trend for
Really?
Lucifer Rising.
Huh.
that's uncool.
That was the first. Omar has to go to that pesky thing called work.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well,
I'm sure I'll be joining you soon.
Yes.
just
definitely.
before you leave, there's me with the one
Oh, wow.
local
Oh,
person
that's
has
awesome.
an Impala. So there's me as Elvira. My before I got my official Elvira costume.
That's incredible.
So, yep, that's me with the Impala.
Nice.
That's excellent.
So we're saying goodbye to Omar because he has to go to work.
Okay.
No,
Hey, Omar,
thing.
thank you for joining us. And
Thank you guys so much.
where can people find you? And plug the
You
podcast.
can find me on YouTube at the Creep Show Podcast. I do one every week. Instagram at the Sandwich Detective. If you want to just check out like the other side of my life and check out the food, same handle for Twitter as well. Or just go on Facebook under my name, Omi Omerton Rios. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Take care.
Have a good day.
Good to
I
meet
didn't
you.
say you had to get everything out. There's all of a sudden a lot of memorabilia on the table. And I was trying to be a little low key, you know. Like,
Oh, go ahead.
Props are
Wait,
always good.
I told
Props
you, I
are
had
always good when it comes to these shows.
so I have this shirt. I'm terrible. So this is my
Join the hunt.
Join the Hunt shirt, and then it's like Castiel is down there with baby, and the boys are there. I have my pocket watch with my anti-possession symbol. Brian is wearing one of my t-shirts. It's the Scooby Natural shirt. I have 2 Always Keep Fighting shirts. I have my jacket, which
Nice.
was hand embroidered at a con.
The front here is cool.
So one of the girls at the con embroidered all the jackets and stuff.
You have the official jacket.
And I have an official Join the Hunt jacket. I have a wallet that's seen better days. Way better days. Like there's a whole part of faces that are no longer there. I have my 164, right? No, this is 124.
Nice.
I love it.
We have seasons 1 through
13 that's been officially released.
14 officially released on DVD or on Blu-ray. I have all of my, so I have my Dean, my Sam,
Of course.
and my Castiel.
Perfect.
So then of course, like
That's
the sheer homage to my character and his baby is baby.
Nice.
So when I say I have a problem, I'm serious. I have a problem.
No.
Looks like a good thing. Hey guys, my signal
Not
keeps dropping. I better say goodbye. I'm
All
sorry.
right, Kelly, thank you for joining us, and definitely want to talk to you more about cosplay and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then
Oh,
tell us
we're
where we can
here.
find you. Tell us where we can find you.
Okay, you can find me on Phoenix Sisters Cosplay on Instagram and Facebook, and you can find my YouTube show, Drunk Comics on YouTube and also Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. My internet issues aside.
Yeah. Hey, Kelly, before you go, I did bring up when you were in between coming back on that you remind me of Donna in your accent.
Oh, thank you.
What's her real name? Brianna?
I don't remember.
The Midwest accent. Well, I'm
Yes,
it's
the A's. It's the ax when we say accent and
well when she says YouTube.
Yeah, when you say YouTube.
YouTube.
Well, that's okay because when Brian met me, he's like, "Where are you from?" He used to call me Bobby's mom. I'm like, I'm like, and I don't say, "Don't you know?" And he's like, "But you sound when I say about." I guess when I say about, I sound like whatever. And maybe it's a little less than 15 years ago when I met him, so like it was probably a little bit more pronounced when I was in Vegas. But
Canada accent.
I live 45 minutes from Windsor.
And
so
Willow's from Canada. She's in
I'm a prairie girl. I'm smack dab in the middle. As far as I know, I don't have an accent unless it comes.
Yep, you do. You have an accent to anybody who doesn't live near
you. Don't have an accent, we all do, right?
Well, thank you for joining us, Kelly, and
you're welcome.
You're in a good group of friends here, so I hope everybody reaches out to Kelly and friend request her and stuff.
And she'll have to drop in on other shows with less internet issues, maybe. I
would love
you're always
knock on wood. Next time will be better, hopefully. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Kelly.
And Nicole, you don't have to be upset about your fandom. I mean, I have the same pocket watch. I have, of course, my my demon repelling amulet here. My wings necklace I have lost. I put it away for safekeeping so my daughter would stop playing with it. But it has Castiel's wings and the.
I have the same one.
But on my necklace, the little pentagram actually glows in the dark.
Yeah.
But this is part of my bracelet. So we got
nice.
Nice.
I love it.
My husband got me a mystery box of Sam for my birthday and a mystery box of Dean for my anniversary because they were one day apart. We got a choker for Dean, and it has the
oh wow.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Sam is a bracelet. It's just stretchy, but it's the same matching one.
Yeah.
And I have literally worn it all through COVID because it's the only thing that was getting me through. I would literally be at work and I'd see it and I'd be like, all right, I got to keep fighting through this because I got to keep my job.
Well, that's the testament of what this show means.
Yeah, we've got a lanyard, we've got buttons, and of course, if you've got Dean's Girl, I've got Team Sam. We got a keychain, got a luggage tag. I love this. I had put my little change purse. I took my Team Dean, and I safely put my Team Sam compact in there.
Oh.
And my daughter dumped my purse out, and I hadn't closed the zipper, so the Sam came sort of out of the Dean, and it's like, oh, good, he protected my right there on the floor.
I broke my Dean compact. I broke it.
My mirror. I had a little stuffy doll of Sam. I had one of Dean, which I had to put away because my daughter kept saying they were her dolls, and I'm like, no, these are mommy's toys. What are you doing? She's like, no, they're mine. They're mine. And I actually got this pattern off of Etsy. It is every week we got one more line so we got the last line, Always Keep Fighting, SPM Family and Gish. When the last episode came out, and I'm almost done outlining it all.
Wow.
And
oh my gosh, that's so
awesome.
cool.
And then I'll put it up on my wall and drive my husband crazy. It's like, really? You got to put that up on the wall? I'm like, yep. So
Well, he has his Enterprise on the wall, so I think it's a fair.
Yeah.
Well, that's only because you don't see the Lord of the Rings stuff on the other side of the room.
So before we hop into the discussion of the finale, I was wondering,
Okay.
Willow, can you pull
You're
this?
I have to.
Okay, can
Yeah.
you pull, that's the name of the song. If you can pull that song up.
Absolutely.
There's a song that goes with this show? I never knew that.
No, not that one.
No. Whoop. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
Make sure you say that we don't own the rights to the music.
No,
from YouTube.
I know.
Sound of Someday. Is that what you?
Yes.
Do. I apologize.
No, that's all right.
It's okay.
That's right. While you do that, I'll just mention that there are a ton of supernatural books out there. Yes, they made a joke of it at one point with Chuck being a writer and writing their books, but there are 3, 6,
Who's the author of
15.
the book?
It depends. We got Keith DeCandido, Jeff Marriott. We have Tim Wagoner with Children of Anubis, which I'm in the middle of right now. I've read all of these at least twice.
It would be so funny if it actually was written, if it said by Chuck.
No. Joe Schreiber, Krista Faust, Rebecca Desertine, and David Reed. Told you there's a bunch.
Oh, wow.
Alice Henderson, John Passarella. His are freaking creepy, but I had to read them 3 times before I stopped getting totally creeped out. Yvonne Navarro is the last one that doesn't have a repeat. So yeah,
Wow.
there's a bunch.
Wow.
So one of my favorites is 1 Year Gone, actually, and it is in between 5 and 6 when Sam is
Soulless.
He's soulless, but we don't know he's back.
Gotcha.
So you've got Sam, you've got Grandpa, you've got Dean, Lisa, and Ben. And they actually end up in Salem, Massachusetts.
Oh,
It is
Wow.
freaking phenomenal. I've only read this one 4 times.
So we can find these on Amazon, right?
Oh, yeah, I found all of these on Amazon. And so you
Okay.
can get them brand
Small
new. You can get
portion,
them used. No, I didn't spend any money on any of these. I would have to ask my husband what he paid for them. But
If I just end up buying them for myself.
but I would say they are definitely worth it, especially with the season finale, because some of these are just awesome. I mean, they've got one that they bring in, actually, Edgar Allan Poe, Nevermore. It's the first one. And
I'm in big trouble now.
yeah, big trouble. But they're cheaper than DVDs. You just have to read.
Well, I have all of the seasons. Maybe I'd read more if I was reading about Sam and Dean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I
There's
also
only about-
recommend watching the anime too. If it's for anime fans,
Yeah.
the Supernatural anime is really
Oh
good.
my god.
It's really good.
It's just everything.
It is really
Wow.
And Jared Padalecki does his own voiceover.
good. Yeah, and
There's-
Jensen did Dean for like the first 3 episodes of the season, or first 5, something like that.
Yeah.
But the guy that they got to do Dean's voice after him was kind of on point too. So you can tell the difference, especially in the inflection, the way he says Sam. But he does a good job with a Dean voice that you can get to. That's not Jensen.
And Darius, you're right. It's the first 2 seasons of the live action. It's 22 episodes in the animated.
Yep.
So you have Anime Only Enemies.
Yep.
and episodes featuring some of the secondary characters from the live action.
They have some main character. They have one in particular main character enemy in it, which is the Yellow-Eyed Demon. They have Azazel show up in it, but it's if you want to retelling of season 1 and 2 and in a different perspective, but kind of it definitely fuels the notion that Chuck killed a whole bunch of Deans and Sams, because this one is the Sam and Dean that we know, but it's also like they feel so much like teenage versions of themselves. It's like they supposed to be the current age Sam and Dean from 1 and 2, but they feel like younger. So like they make other mistakes more so than they do in the show, but it's also like retelling of like the Woman in White is episode 1 of the anime, and their version of Woman in White is a lot more deeper than the version that we got in the show. So it's like you can get away with a lot more stuff in the anime that you did in live action and vice versa. So I definitely recommend it. Well, and Carry On Wayward Son is like the ending theme to the show itself. So
the Origins, Supernatural Origins is the graphic novel too. When that
IDW
talks, it kind of follows John in the beginnings and their childhood, which is you get flashbacks in the show, but it kind of was. I think I only was able to read the first 2 books. I am way behind on my reading. Like I've watched way too much TV. But yeah, we have Origins. But I actually read the comic that I got in at San Diego Comic Con.
I'll tell you this one, Heart of the Dragon. This novel brings in you actually jump 20 years. So you've got the boys, you've got John fighting the same evil, and then 20 years earlier than that, Grandpa, and a little bit of Mary in there.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So
that's Origins.
Oh, that's the one I want. That's the one.
Nice.
Maybe I should.
But did you find that clip?
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna play this. This is something that we don't own the rights to, but it was used in this season, and I thought it was placed very well in the season.
I really love that music.
All gone is here today, finding room to breathe. Go on, be on your way and see. Someday, maybe home. And the sounds of someday, maybe home. Yeah.
So this is Jared, or Jensen Eccles, and Steve Carlson.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually really love their music.
Yeah, they're called Radio Company.
Yeah, and
it's
then
really good.
so fun fact. So Steve Carlson also worked with Christian King from Kingdom.
All the stars seem all out of control today. Sounds of someday, baby home. The sounds of someday may be home. Yeah.
Like, he had a phenomenal voice. And at every Supernatural convention, he always sings.
They bring everybody out.
Yeah, they bring out a lot of the cast and crew to sing.
Oh wow! I think I've seen some videos on YouTube with them, like just hanging out at panels, and they just seem so genuine and down to earth. That's why I always connected to not just the show, but them as people.
Yeah. But yeah, he's definitely a triple threat. I mean, he's a writer, he's an actor, he's a singer. He even done some directing. Do you remember how many episodes he directed of Supernatural, Kara?
I want to say 3, but I know I'm wrong. I would actually have to go and look it up.
I think it might have been 4.
See, listen to this.
I think it's 4 or 5.
Now you got me.
It's a great voice.
That is a great voice.
Yeah.
So it sounds like
Radio
Sunday
Company is
was
really
in
good.
Yeah,
I'm-
season 15, episode 4.
they used this song, season 15, episode 4, and it was perfectly placed in that episode.
Yeah.
If you listen to the lyrics and saw that episode, it fits so well. It fit like a glove. So now I think we should hop into that finale.
He directed 6 episodes of Supernatural.
6. Oh,
We were both wrong.
6.
Yep.
Nice.
I knew it wasn't like 8 or 9, but I knew it was higher than like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
That's nice though. And I think some of his episodes that he directed were a lot of fan favorites too.
Yeah. But if you like the music, definitely hit Radio Company.
Definitely.
I've listened to the whole album, and
It's really good.
Yeah, from start to finish. If you liked that, Willow, you would love the rest of the stuff that's on the album.
And then
Yeah,
there's
I've listened to it.
a lot of fun stuff that the guys have put together with like Rob Benedict and
Yeah,
some of the other
Rob-
talent in the show have all gotten together and they've sang on stage together and
Rob's
conventions and
band is called Loud and
Swain.
Loud and Swain. And he's got a fantastic voice too, very different.
Well, everybody on the show seems like they can sing. And the only person that's never sang is Jared, and
he's on the
but
Christmas.
he did sing on the Christmas.
He's on the Christmas album.
Oh my god, it's a Christmas
yeah, it's a
album. Of
Christmas
course there
album.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, with their good friend who helps produce the music for Supernatural, Jason Mans.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on. If you have access to Amazon Music, it's Jason Mans and Friends, and it's pretty much everybody from Supernatural. So
And Christian Kane too.
Christian Kane.
So it's worth a listen.
Yeah,
It's worth the deep dive into Supernatural music.
Joe, right? What's her?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of her name. She
sings on it, and Kim
Rhodes.
Rose.
She sings on it, and Donna.
Oh,
sings
she's a
on
great
it.
singer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
Kim,
absolutely
Kim Rhodes.
fantastic.
She does Joan Jett, who sings like Barracuda.
Wow.
Yes.
No.
She's a very talented woman.
Yeah. So it's worth it. If you're a fan, it's worth it. And then Sounds of Someday was in episode 4 of season 15. So a lot of the music in season 15 was very reminiscent of his type of music.
Yeah,
A little bit more bluesy.
And all the beer that you see in this last season is Jensen's. He owns actually in Austin, Texas, called Family Business Brewery, and so I was always wondering, I was like, like when you are on a TV show or a movie, if it's not a product placement, they kind of blur the label a little bit.
It's not even blurred. It's just that they didn't show. There were no words on the label.
But
like
they made
you always see them drink beer, but there was never a label.
Like their hand was covering it, or
it was placed in a certain way, and of course the beer probably wasn't even in it anyways. But or they'd be really drunk because I've seen the gag roll.
But this season,
if it wasn't Schultz, it said, if it didn't say Schultz, it said Family Business on it. So
that was a nice, nod of keeping it in the family.
But it was interesting to hear some of the newer stuff, like since the airing of the episode, like the airing of the season finale. So there was an article that was written that Dean, he says he took the boots, like he has Dean's boots, and of course he has a version of Baby.
Yeah, in
his garage, and that's where he was coming to us live on a lot of the like the Q&As that they were doing on Instagram.
Well, I think he said that he actually getting the actual baby now. Like
Baby
after the finale, he's taking the actual baby home.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so it was funny because he said that the boots, the same boots that Dean wears in the show, are the same boots that Soldier Boy is wearing in The Boys.
And the
Boys, same brand, just a different color.
Nice.
Same style, same brand, same boots. So he's like, his joke was that they'll always be part of Dean that follows him around, like
and literally.
But I guess probably because Kripke is,
the showrunner,
is the father of Supernatural and pretty much The Boys. So I think there's that understanding, but it's just interesting, like to have something really come full circle the way it did. Like, I know that COVID messed so much up, and legitimately, like really, when you listen to the guys tell about the actual script and the differences in filming,
I mean, because like
they said there wasn't that much change.
I mean, these last 7 episodes was almost a skeleton crew because of COVID. That's why there wasn't. We're used to seeing tons of characters in a scene, where these last 7 episodes, if you noticed, it wasn't like more than 6.
There were never more than 4 people in the place.
Yeah.
And
like the most I think it was when Michael and Lucifer was fighting in the finale, right? Oh, the episode 19.
In 19, yeah, I think that was the most people that were in one room. On the set at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow. It was Michael and Cass. No, Cass wasn't there. Michael. There's like 5 or 6.
Yeah, it was.
Or no, maybe it was it the one where Rowena, the last one that Rowena was in?
No, you had Adam, Michael, you had Lucifer, Sam, and Dean, and I just don't know if Cass was there or not.
No, Jack was there.
Jack.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there were so many constraints, but really.
And then if I read it right, the scene where in the finale where they wake up and they go to the pie festival.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the joke with pie is a lot of people thought it was a sexual reference, but Dean actually likes pie.
It's like pie.
So they go to an apple pie festival, and a lot of the people that were in that scene were actually part of the crew, I think, to make it work.
Yeah. And they had already been on set and quarantined, so it was
the kids that were in the set were the kids of the crew, and that's how they get away with it, because the kids, live with the crew, so we know that they're not sick.
Well, and I just really I really like the fact that the alarm goes off and they have nowhere to be. Like, you turn the alarm off. It's like 5 minutes of them, doing their morning routine, making breakfast and the toast popping out of the toaster. And then
Sam was on a jog.
You know, Sam going for his run. They have no place to be. You know, they're brushing their teeth. They're making their beds. They're not making their beds. You know, it was a very like ordinary life. And they're like, is anything weird over the wire? And you see just how different their personalities are. Like, you know, Sam is meticulously putting his bed together and Dina's like, whoosh, there we go. And, you know, he's washing the dishes and the dog helps to wash the dishes. And I was like, well, yeah, that seems like, you know.
And I don't want to give away the episode before the finale because if Willow goes to watch,
yeah,
like
It's okay. Go right ahead and talk about it.
There are just going to be
God was the villain of season 15, and yeah,
and I think that was the whole thing is like, if you're gonna have free will, nobody can be pulling the strings. Yeah. Like the Bible basically tells you always have the right to choose. You always have the power to choose. You have free will. And
so Chuck was the villain.
If Chuck didn't allow the boys to have free will, you know, like
because they were his favorite versions of them.
Yeah, so he was pulling the strings the whole time.
Yeah,
it's like,
right in the story,
you know,
right in the dialogue.
If you don't have free will, then, you know, all of a sudden when you do, you know, it's like, well, he's like, is there anything weird on the wire? And it's like, nothing's weird on the wire. He's like, and then Dean goes, oh, and he goes, you found something? He's like, oh boy, did I find something. We got to go. And they go to this pie festival and I am like dying. And Sam's like, are you crying? And he's like, I'm not crying.
You're crying.
And then he comes back with the box with all the pies.
He's got six pieces of pie. And he's like, what's wrong? And Sam's like, nothing. And he's like, that's sad Sam face. That's sad Sam face. And he's like, no, he's just thinking Cass and Jack and how they should all be here and blah, blah. And he says, quit being an Eeyore. And then you get a pie in the face. And I'm just like, oh my God. Because I'm laughing because there have been 1,000 times when he was eating pie that I know Sam wanted to reach over and go, yep. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm laughing, which was the last time I laughed because then I end up crying the rest of the freaking episode.
Yeah.
So we go back to a monster of the week.
So it's hilarious because he's scraping it off and he eats it and he's laughing. He's like, I've wanted to do that so many times. But it's like there wasn't time to goof around and to just enjoy themselves like, you know, brothers do occasionally. And that was the highlight. And so we go back to their monster of the week and they're like, well, there's these killings and da 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 da. So he introduces himself as Agent Kripke this time.
Yeah.
It's not Agent Bon Jovi, which is my favorite.
And Agent Singer, wasn't it?
Yeah, Agent Singer. Yep.
And
so
for
Willow, Robert Singer is the showrunner now since Kripke is gone.
So it was like a throwback to you know the first 5 seasons versus you know the upcoming show.
And also Robert Singer is the full name of the character of Bobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I always thought was hilarious. I was like,
yeah. Because Robert's actually been there since the beginning. He was kind of like working under Kripke.
And I think that's probably why he took over as showrunner.
I wouldn't want anybody else.
And I think we got to pay a little bit of homage to Sarah Gamble in there too, because there were a lot of really amazingly written stories that she wrote, and
absolutely,
you know, in that first 5 seasons.
Yeah, and then of course Robert Englund. Am I saying his last name right?
And Edlund. Edlund? Dang it! How come I can't say his last name? Edlund.
Yeah, he did.
Edlund.
He did a lot of good.
There's a lot of really awesome things written by him too.
Yeah.
Minus the Leviathans, but anyway. I just think that was kind of like that case that kind of brought them back, and I kind of died a little bit inside because it hits that 16-minute mark. And you see the rebar and dance.
Well, it's they figured out it's vampires.
Well, yeah. Because they knew it was vampires because it was a case they'd done 20 years. Their dad had done 20 years before.
Right, where
They have the masks.
the parents are killed and the kids
The
are
father is bled out. The mother is left with her tongue cut out, and the kids are bled and missing.
Yeah.
And so it's the nest of vampires, and they had actually said they really wanted more vampires. And then
they Sam and Dean are captured, and then they wake up and they're in a barn.
No, they go to the nest. They take the dead man's bullet. They take him to the barn, and they're gonna kill the nest. But they get there, and there's nobody there. But the vampires ambush them. That's what happens because I watched it twice. I know. Because I have a problem.
But
I watched it twice too.
When they wake up, they meet a familiar face.
Yeah, it was Jenny.
From
And I was
the
like-
very first season.
And then they did the flashback, and he's like, "It's somebody from high school that you don't really want to see."
Mhm.
I know that story. But it kind of was like a culmination of a lot of things, and you heard a lot of
The music definitely led on to what was going to happen.
well, and
Mhm.
and you see, like, I'm sorry, but you see the rebar,
And you're like, someone's going on that.
and and I'm like, it can't be anybody this soon. Like, they can't die this soon.
Yeah, I was thinking it was going to be like used for the vampire.
I did too. But then he was standing in front of it. Like when I watched it the second time, like the rebar is here, it's in the foreground, and Sam is in the background, standing like that. It's actually the opposite way. But he was like standing with his back towards it in the background. And so it was like foreshadowing it was going to happen. And I lost my
and
about
Dean
7 minutes,
and then-
15, I think was when it happened.
And then like Sam was fighting like two vampires, and then
Beheaded one.
And
well,
then
he beheaded
Dean
Jenny.
was
Wrestling with the bigger guy.
Yeah, like he speared him into it, and you didn't know, but so Dean's fighting, and Sam sees, and then Sam comes and kills the vampire.
But it's too late.
Oh, that scene. Yeah.
And he's like, "Don't move me. It feels like this thing is holding me together."
Yeah.
And he turns to Sam and he says, "Stay with me, please." And he's like, "Yeah, okay." I literally wrote down
he
what
like
they were-
said he like Sam wanted to call a paramedic.
He's like, "I'll call somebody. I'll get the first aid kit." And he's like, "No, stay with me. I'm fading."
What I loved about this scene too was that Sam's first thing was, "Look, I'll make a deal. I'll because that's their first thing to do. As soon as one of them, I gotta make a deal. I gotta go use some supernatural power to bring my brother back." And this was the first time when he was like, "No, we know how that goes. We know how that ends.
It never ends good."
Yeah, it never ends good."
And then he says something about like calling like paramedic or police, and he's like,
no. "Just stay with me. I'm fading fast." And I'm just like, I'm a freaking mess. Like, I really am a mess.
Yeah,
and
powerful.
He says, "This is the way it's supposed to end." And he says, "This was always the way it was gonna. This was how it's gonna end for me."
I was always going to go out fighting.
And he says, "Saving people, hunting things," and that was the whole thing. And he's like, "Yeah," and he says, "It's been one hell of a ride." And I continued to cry more. I didn't think that was possible, and I will honestly say
that scene, like he really pulled, like that was good acting.
And I don't even know that it was acting though.
I think it was like
I think that was real.
Jared Jensen actually talking to
it's
each other.
Really a culmination of the fact that we're never going to be in this place again. Like, this is goodbye for now. And he says, "I'm so proud of you, Sam. I've always looked up to you." And so when he says, "I've always looked up to you," I went, "Well, literally," because I couldn't keep crying at that point. I was like, I had to give a little bit of levity because I was like, I'm going to die. Because I'm like, this is the longest death scene, and this is my favorite. This is like my favorite character of all time, and I'm going to watch you die.
But when
the slowest, most painful death ever.
when Jensen reached around and had his hand on the back of his head
Oh God, I lost my mind.
and like trying to comfort Sam.
He brings them over. He's like, come here. He's like, you're so smart. I'm so proud of you. You know, you never took any of Dad's crap. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And, you know, you're stronger than me. You always have been. And I was just like, I'm going to die.
I'm going to tell you what almost broke me was when he said that first night when I came to get you and you was at college and he was like, I was so scared. I was out there for hours. He was like, I was so nervous because I didn't know what I would do if you would have told me no or to go fuck off. Or
yeah. If you would have told me to get lost or get dead.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh man, like that really like that hurt because I can see that. Like I can see him like really sitting there staying like, I don't know if he's gonna come with me. I can't do. He said he was so scared. He was like, I don't know if I can do this alone.
Go right back to that first episode where he's standing there at the doorway and he says, you know, Dad's been gone. Dad went on a hunting trip and he's been gone for he hasn't come back in a few days, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of places where it says always you and me. And he says, don't leave me. I can't do this alone. And, you know, it was like he'd already echoed those words that Dean said. And then he says, I'm not leaving. I'm going to be with you every day. Out there living, you keep fighting. Always keep fighting. And I'm just like, holy crap. Like that was a ton of fan service there. And then he like legitimately tells somebody that he loves them. And this is the first time and only time in the series. And this is why it made me so mad about the other stuff is that he says, I love you so much, my baby brother. And that's the first time, that he said those three words in that order to someone else, like legitimately said the words. Cause he said something. He did tell his mom that he loved him, but Letty loved her, but I don't think it was in that succession of words. Like it was the first time Dean actually said the words, I love you. Yeah.
No, I think he said to Mom, I love you and I hate you.
Yeah.
Or I hate you and I love you.
I hate you and I hate you, but I love you. I think that's what he said.
Yeah. So Dean then drifts off on Sam's shoulder.
I need you to promise me to tell me it's okay.
Yeah.
And I was done. I was really done with it. Like, I kept on crying.
And then Sam says, it's okay. You can go now.
And do you feel like the ending was like the perfect ending, or did it still leave you with questions?
Well, we'll get to that in a minute.
I had my gripes. We could get to it later. I definitely had gripes.
Let's continue.
Well, you know, like when there's little things that you saw in the bunker when he went back, like the fact that he's burning the body alone, that was hard because they'd always done that together.
That they did the Star Wars type thing, like when Luke Skywalker burned Darth Vader. Mm-hmm. It was exactly the same way.
And you know, and then you know, Sam's alone at the bunker, and then all of it almost repeats. It legitimately repeats the morning before.
Yep.
So he wakes up at 8. He goes through all of those things. He goes to make breakfast. There's nobody to get the toast. There's that visible absence that he has. And then he's sitting at the table and he looks at all the initials and everybody's name on the table, you know, Sam, the SW, the DW, the MW, and then Jack and Castiel. And so they'd all engraved their mark on the table. And so there's that really, that's a pretty poignant shot. And then he is in Dean's room, and that's when the phone rings. Dean's other phone rings.
Well, he's sitting there and he's looking like there's 2 shotguns on the wall.
He's looking at everything that was left behind, you know, and it's kind of like those like little like Easter eggs of things that have gone of time past. And he did say another thing about always keep fighting. So there's Austin. In Austin, there's people missing their hearts, and that was back to
the phone rings,
Wendigo.
and then he pulls out the drawer, and there's lots of phones because they have burner phones.
And there's a DHS and the CIA and all the other phones that people would call.
So he answers, and it's like Agent.
Is this Agent Bon Jovi? Yes, this is Agent Bon Jovi. He's like, Donna says you're the man to call. You're the guy to call. And so you just kind of see like that, always keep fighting, like that whole understanding of I've got to keep doing this because this is
really cool because this kind of is a lead in to what Jared is doing next.
Yeah.
Because he says, well, first of all, Jared and Jensen live in Austin.
Yeah.
And Jared is going to be the new Walker Texas Ranger, which
is in Texas.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you think about it that way, we have a thing here in Austin, people are coming up missing their hearts. And so, and it's really cool because this is the last time we see the bunker.
Yep.
So he's going slow and they're showing all the rooms.
He turns off all the lights and all the lights go dark. And then it pans out to Dean in heaven and he says, well, at least I made it to heaven. And
Bobby's there.
And he said, I can't remember what he says. You sure did or something. And then
he calls him an idiot.
Dean goes, what memory is this? And he says, it ain't, you idiot. And I'm like, it's Bobby. We're back to, it's just, oh my gosh. I was like,
because heaven's made to believe that it's just a memory that you just.
It's all the memories you replay. And he's like, kids, that kid of yours made some changes. So he's like, and set some things right. So he's, basically broke Bobby out of, heaven's lockdown or whatever crazy that was. And then, he says, but, it's the heaven you deserve. And
so basically heaven is earth,
a neighborhood.
Yeah. And
heaven is like a gated community.
Yeah. And he says, Rufus and Aretha live up the street at 5 miles back.
And then
your mom lives yonder.
Well, Rufus and Bobby had a love-hate relationship. So he's like, I don't know.
I thought Aretha would have better taste or whatever.
Yeah.
And then your mom and dad live over yonder. And he said, well, then Jack did all this. And he says, Cass helped. So there had to be, and that's what COVID did. There had to be all these nods to people because it was supposed to be
all of them,
everybody coming back and like being there. But because of COVID and the fact that if you cross the border into Canada, you had mandatory 14 days of quarantine. Mm-hmm. So they're sitting in a hotel room quarantined.
They can't do anything.
They can't do anything. So then there's 2 weeks out of their life. Like he said, it was hard, but he understood why they couldn't all show up. I think too many people get all upset about the fact that, there were rules.
We should have seen Bella or we should have seen like this person, but it's just like they did the best they could with the situation that's at hand.
They had to just make the nods I think they had to make nods to people, like they had to make it that way.
Yeah.
And
it was cool that when he showed up with Bobby sitting there, it was the bar and it was
the
Roadhouse. Harvell's.
And he says it's a big new world. And he said, it's like the first drink I shared with my dad. And he's like, quality stuff? And he's like, no. And he says, but it's perfect. And he says, almost perfect. And Bobby knew exactly what he meant. He says, he'll be along.
He said time is different here.
Time is different here.
So like 2 minutes in heaven time is like years in our time.
Well, it's like Dean is just driving baby for like 20 minutes. But
and it's a whole lifetime.
Living his entire life, the rest of his life. And I think like there were lots of really cool nods to the show. In this case, it was, I think I'm going to go for a drive, and he basically says hi to her again, and it has the Kansas plates on it, and Kansas's the Kansas version of the thing is,
yeah, and it's the whole song.
It's the whole
Yep.
song while he's driving,
And he's like, I love this song,
I
and
love
like
this
he's all
song.
beating on the wheel and like dancing to it,
and so you see Sam's son that he named Dean. You see all of the things and all the highlights of a parent's life.
so like
And-
he's there at the table helping him with homework,
Yeah, and
then
there's pictures of everybody like everywhere. Like I'm like, where did all these pictures come from? I'm like, what the heck?
Well,
Like-
what I really love that you find later when as the child grows old is that Sam told him how to be normal, but he still kept him up on the supernatural stuff. So
yeah,
it's
his
like,
son had a
he's
supernatural tattoo.
he had the anti-possession tattoo. So it's like he still was like, you're gonna know what's going on out here, but I'm gonna teach you as we go along, and then whether you accept what's happening in this world or not is all up to you. And it definitely goes to show the son, was warmed up to it because he had the tattoo. So I thought that was great. I said, yeah, Sam, because now Sam is the best of both worlds. He's the normal that they projected, but he also had the supernatural side that he couldn't escape from. And so I'm glad that he still showed his son that instead of just like ignoring it. So that was just a good nod when he put his hand down. I said, "Oh, like he's still teaching the supernatural side. He just also teaching them how to be normal."
Yeah, and then so we see Sam walk into a garage,
Yep.
and then he takes the cover and it's baby. He takes the cover off the car and it's baby.
with Ohio plates, because that was
Later
I can't remember what episode it was when they changed the plates, because it couldn't be the Kansas plates because they were on the radar for something else, something that happened
Yeah,
in the
sure.
earlier seasons. Can't remember.
I think it was the Leviathans.
And so so he's sitting in the car, and it's almost like they can feel each other,
Mm-hmm.
like that like that
And he's old at this
moment. Yeah, they could have done a better job wigging him, I think.
Oh yeah,
Oh, what did you do? That was one of my complaints, really. But the deathbed scene was probably like I was
was
done.
hard.
that was hard.
And then it's interesting because the son tells Sam the same thing Sam told Dean. He's like, "It's okay, you can go now."
Yep.
So we shoot back to heaven, and Dean is pulling up on a bridge with baby, and he gets out and he goes to the railing, and it's like a river,
It's
or like
beautiful.
and
Like,
he's just standing there taking it.
I had
in.
to figure out where this is, because that's my next bucket list place to go.
It's-
So I'm gonna
it's-
stand on that bridge.
It's Vancouver somewhere.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And I think you totally lost it. Like you were crying.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll explain.
Love
Dean
Vancouver.
is standing there, and he's just looking at the beautiful of heaven, and he stops, and then he smiles, and he goes, "Hey, Sammy."
I died again. Like,
And then you turn around, and Sam is there, and he's like, "Hey, Dean."
he didn't even say "Hey Dean." He said "Dean."
Dean, well,
Dean. Like quintessentially the way they would address each other any other time. Like,
Yep.
and then they hugged.
and
As
I
if
just
it was on yesterday.
yeah. I'm like, I'm done. I'm dead. I can't.
Yep.
So then in my deep dive, like then Brian was showing me all these really cool like other channels that were talking about following them. So in all these times they talked about like always being open to the fact that they would reprise their characters at some point. Is like, this is goodbye for now. Hopefully not forever.
It's like a see you later.
Yet. It's a see you later. We're not really going anywhere. And so it was kind of nice to hear like that they would reprise their roles. They would come back and enjoy that time, because it's huge. Like they do have a lot of us to thank for the
This
fact
is
that
one of
show
the
was on for
shows
50 years.
that will be like MASH, I Love Lucy, the Dick Van Dyke Show, like shows that people continue to talk about years later.
Definitely. Absolutely.
It definitely made a mark. It made a mark, for so many of us.
And like I said, I literally grew up with this show, so like that's why I love it so much, because I was like 11 when it came out. So literally
15 years is a long time for a show, regardless of what it was.
I mean, it's kind of funny because my entire adult life, the show's been on my entire adult life and the entire duration of our relationship. Like this was a show that was on the entire time we've been together. So it was kind of like, it was very much
we've had 2 kids during this.
Yeah. And funny story is that Jensen's name was on the list of names for Brighton, but it was not picked because I could not win everybody over on the name. So I tried. Jensen, I tried.
Everybody, you know what? That's the great thing about family is everybody has their opinion on what to name your children.
Yeah, my mom hated Brighton's name. She's like, "Why would you name him that?" And I'm like, "Because." I was like, "If I can't have the character I want, then I'm going to name him another character that everybody."
So before we do our final thoughts, there's a clip that I sent you, which is
if you'll just let Darius or Darius. God, why can't I say your name?
Either way works. It's okay. Either way works.
But
I get a little more freaked out probably than
there's
I do.
the first clip that I sent you, Willow. It was actually recorded by 2 sisters 2 years ago, and they kept saying that it would be so cool if Supernatural used our version of this song.
Well, because it was inspired.
It was inspired by Supernatural, and they found out that it was being used in the finale, and they used it in Sam's death scene.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a haunting version.
I love this version of the song. So can you go ahead and pull that clip up, Willow?
Absolutely.
You might have to raise the volume a little bit. There we go.
I was soaring ever higher.
It's definitely haunting.
Though my eyes could see, I still was a blind man. Though my mind could think, I still was a madman. I hear the voices when I'm dreaming. I can hear them say, carry on my wayward star. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't cry no more. Masquerading as a man with a reason. My charade is the event of the season. And if I claim to be a wise man, it surely means that I don't know. On a stormy sea of moving emotion, tossed about, I'm like a ship on the ocean. I set a course for winds of fortune, but I hear voices say, carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more. No longer empty. Surely heaven waits for you. Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
Such a haunting song.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. Kind of have to let it play. Wow.
It kind of, I feel like it settled the like both ways that it was bittersweet. Like there was the joy in the original song and driving baby through heaven, and like the melancholy of the end, you know, like.
Yeah. And I said this, because with every season finale of the show of Supernatural, it would be like it would say then, and it would play the Kansas Carry On Wayward Son. But season 15 finale did not start that way. They used the song at the end, and I said that's how they would do it. Because the meaning of the song "Carry On, Wayward Son," and that last episode was called "Carry On."
Carry on.
Yeah, and it really was like it says, that the verse about heaven, and so like it kind of like belonged in that portion of the.
And that was really cool that those girls got their song in the finale. Like I was reading all their YouTube comments. Like I said, the video was posted 2 years ago, and in the top comment they said it would be cool if we could have this in Supernatural. And then like looking at the newer comments of people like, look, we did it, and they're like replying to everybody saying that, and they're like, thank you, we're so happy and flying over the moon,
and it's like it was. I felt like it was. I don't feel bad. Like, I feel bad that the show's over. Like, that's where I'm at. But I'm not pissed at the way it ended. Like, I'm not.
It was the perfect ending.
There were little things that I wish had been different. Like, I wish it hadn't been 17. It wasn't 17 minutes. Like you could have given a little bit more time. But I'm glad we saw them in heaven. I'm glad we saw them reunite. I'm glad we heard that everybody was there and it wasn't a bunch of memories. And that's how, that Jack and Cass had made it be that way. So, don't bark.
So, what did you think of everything, Kara? Like, if you had to look back, like, what the show meant to you, what the show means to you going forward, even though it's done?
The show, for me, has always been about family. That dynamic. I mean, I have a larger family, but no one has ever really been there for anybody else the way Sam and Dean are. And I also grew up with Lord of the Rings. Since I was my daughter's age 7, I've had Lord of the Rings in my brain. I lost count on the number of readings of that story at 60, and I was still in high school. And I don't even know where it is now. It's ridiculous. But, so that's what I grew up with. And then this is like the second half of my life. And Sam and Dean are just, to me, very much like Frodo and Samwise in Lord of the Rings. And it'll always be with me. And I'm keeping the DVDs. I'm keeping the books. They are, my new older family. It's not like I'm going to get rid of the family I had when I was younger, but this is now new extended family. I let them into my heart, and I don't cry easily, and I did with this twice, and that to me says a lot.
I cry super easily, so.
But it's also it's very much like the end of Lord of the Rings. My husband's like, why do we have to have a whole second episode for an ending? Well, for those people who have that with the movie of Lord of the Rings, it's like, why do we have to have another whole 20 minutes of second ending, third ending? Because you have to get to a point where, in this case, Dean says to Sam, you need to be one and whole for many years to come and live your life without me. And yeah, eventually it will come back and we'll be together again. But you can't always be split in two. Sam, the whole 15 years, he's been split in two. He wants to be there for family. He wants to be there for Dean. But he also doesn't want to be hunting. He wants to go have a life. And because of the way they were brought up, he doesn't get that choice. Or rather, when he does, he always chooses family. And that means choosing hunted.
That's our dilemma, really, right? Like everybody's dilemma is that family is important to us, but when do we go live our own lives? Like you always come back to how much of your family do you escape to? It's like, because he's like, this is so much of my life, I don't know how to live it without you.
Right, but that was my life. I mean, as I had said earlier, my father died when I was young, and I tried what I could as a kid to keep my family together. And then eventually I went to college. After college, I wasn't there to keep the family together. I changed. And right now I live up in the Northeast. I'm in Massachusetts. My entire family moved from New York to Georgia. And everyone's like, well, why aren't you there? Why aren't you with your family? And it's like, because unlike Sam, I made a choice to be away from my family, to get out of the family business, as it were, and go my own way. And Dean Jr. knows about Uncle Dean and what they do, what they did. My kid's going to have some background, but not the way she would have if I had chosen family. She's got 12 cousins she knows nothing about, really. So the always choosing family, you got to decide which family, and I've got to go back and rewatch 327 episodes to get my head around, what is this really trying to say now that I know how it ends. And I need to look at it as an adult and not as this is awesome and fun, but there's so many, you can watch it as a fun show, or you can take it as something to sit down and really think about the relationships and what it's trying to tell you. And yeah, we're always going to keep fighting, but what are you going to fight for? Are you fighting for your family? Are you fighting for the life that you could have if you choose otherwise? I got to go find out.
Well, very well spoken. Very beautiful.
What about you, Darius? I know you say you grew up with this show, so what does it mean to you?
This would have been my number one had it not been for me watching Smallville before. So Smallville barely gets over Supernatural, just barely. But in any case, my friends who know me knows that I eat, sleep, and breathe Supernatural. Like that is just I put my little brother on, and he binge watched the show probably faster than I've seen anybody binge watch anything. And I'm talking
It's
anything.
about the time it starts acting stupid.
Yeah, so it's always gonna have a place in my heart. Like I said, I carry Dean's necklace with me literally everywhere I go. So in that sense, I'm glad that I was able to grow up with this show. I learned a sense of family that I've learned to adapt and adopt to my own livelihood as well. And I'm just gonna always remember the show for what it really did, and it just showed that blood is thicker than water, but also like you can also have family amongst other people that's not necessarily blood, and you can, you grow and you can go whichever way you want to in terms of life, but you'll always still have this kind of familial connection, no matter what happens, no matter how far you are apart, you'll still have this familial connection, and it just also showed that there's crazy things out here. We learned with Supernatural, there's monsters out here that's evil, but we also see there's humans as evil as monsters too. And you just gotta kind of just go about life however you want to go about life, and you have to take the challenges that comes on. You have to keep fighting, because who else is going to fight for you?
Yeah.
So that's what I learned about this show, and I'm always going to honor this show whichever way I can. If it's wearing Dean's necklace, if it's me buying the Impala in the future, which I plan to, at least a version of it. It's like I'm going to always honor this show, and it's always going to be a part of me. And I'm always going to promote it, and I'm always going to try and make the convention whenever I can, and I'm always going to try and put people onto the show. And yeah, it's always going to be a part of me. So thank you, Eric Kripke and Robert Singer, for just giving us this baby, and all the writers and the crew that worked on this show, because without them and without the fans who really vouched for this show to go as long as it did, us included, I'm really appreciative of being a fan of this show, and hopefully we get something in the future. If not, I'm going to buy my 15 season collection, and I'll have my 15 seasons to look back on as well.
So there is a little spoiler there. There is a featurette coming out called, was it The Winchesters?
Mythology.
The Mythology of the Winchesters. Midwestern heroes.
Yeah,
right.
It's a full-on documentary coming out.
It's a documentary. So,
oh wow,
oh good.
And so there's a whole conversation about what this was, and so it was kind of interesting to listen to characters talk about the show. And so in the finale, like Misha says, it's the best of American masculinity. Like it's what we hope American men would aspire to fight for the underdog and to keep people safe and to do all of those things. And I'm like, that's kind of a true, like, the best way you can pay homage to a show is to say that there's real life that has been breathed into the show. Like it was the very long road trip, 15-year road trip that we went on across America, and with the music of our lives, all of the things that make America different and interesting. And there's so many things along the way, and I just think that at some point my kids hopefully will appreciate the show as much as I do, but hopefully my mini versions of Sam and Dean will get on track here, because man,
something that was really cool that they did with the finale was at the end of the credits, they came on as Jared and Jensen and thanked the fans. And then there was a shot of them and the whole cast and crew that they could get on that bridge, and like a helicopter overview of them waving goodbye.
Wow.
Kind of a little bit reminiscent of MASH when the helicopter takes off and then it just says the words goodbye.
But
yeah,
you listen to them talk later on about how they're like, it's goodbye for now. They're open to always coming back, and whether it's a mini series or a movie or whatever, like they're in it. They're like, it might be 5 years down the road, but they're willing. And a lot of shows that last a long period of time when people can't say goodbye, there's a lot of characters that they don't want to come back. David Boreanaz said that he would never want a reunion of Angel. There would, like, that was the end. And that's, that was a chapter of his life that's over. And so, which was it was a hard pill to swallow too, because I felt like that show it
ended before they, I feel like with Angel, it's an abrupt ending for no apparent reason.
That ending,
I love Angel.
This one didn't make me mad. This ending was perfect for me. Like,
good.
I'm okay. Angel pissed me off. The Blade pissed me off.
Yeah, let's not talk about the Blade.
Well, yeah.
You know, like don't leave me like that. Like, there's a lot of shows that you're just like, like, why?
Yeah.
I watched the entire season and that's how you left it? Like, why? There was no closure. There was no, like, I don't even care if it wasn't a happily ever after. I don't need a happily ever after. I would like it, but I get it.
And that's the thing. The crazy thing about this show is that they could have played it safe with episode 19 and let that been the finale. And I would have been very content with it. You know, Sam and Dean, they win. They win. You feel? And I'd have been content with it. But it's when I finished watching the episode, I said, I know episode 20 coming because this is not Supernatural. It can never be this smooth. Like nothing's ever this smooth with Supernatural. It's always
episode 19. A lot of people consider that the finale because they were happy with how that ended. Jack becoming God, and
everybody was still alive technically.
What was the song that they used? It was a popular song. I can't remember. Card, do you remember the song that was used in episode 19? It was a very popular song from like the 60s, I think, or 70s.
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
I can't remember either.
But like they were showing like the whole planet and everybody was back because Chuck had basically left planet Earth. It was only Sam and Dean were left on Earth. And he was going to let them.
Jack and Michael.
Yeah. And so like there was no birds, there was no life. And then Jack rewrote that and brought everybody back. And
yeah, it was like I said, they could have ended it there, and everybody would have been happy. But I was like, in Supernatural, like that's not what they do. you have to break some tears. Yeah,
running on empty.
Running on empty. So
I don't know all the words. Do the song.
Yeah.
So in Supernatural fashion, they gave you an ending where that's Supernatural. Like even if you watch it and you watch all the seasons and you're just like, oh yeah, they win, but they don't never win. They never truly win, and that's the beauty of this show is that they never truly win.
They got the Butch Cassidy Sundance Kid ending that they've always alluded to.
Yep.
You know, where one goes out in glory. You know,
like I would have written it differently, but I'm not mad at how this ended because here's my theory how I would have done it. I would have had one of them get turned a vampire, just how Chuck kind of wanted them to in a different alternate reality, and then that be the finish where it's still the Cain and Abel trope that he wanted. So essentially, how I would have wrote it is, no matter, even though you beat Chuck, the story that he wanted to happen just happened because it's just your destiny to have the Cain and Abel trope. That's how I would have done it. So like, I don't know how many of you watched the Teen Wolf series, but in Teen Wolf in season one of the main characters was getting turned into a werewolf, and they were a hunter, and that's kind of like the most forbidden thing that can happen is them becoming a supernatural creature. Yeah. So they had a character kill them because they said the worst thing to do right now is to live as a supernatural creature. So I would have thought, what's the worst thing that can happen to Dean or Sam right now is that they become the monsters they hunt. So I'm like, that would have been, to me, one of the craziest way to do it. It's like, yo, have one of them get bit and know, like, I'm turning. I can feel myself turning. You got to take me out before, because I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to become the very monster that we hunt. So that's how I would have done it. But I'm satisfied with how they did it. Either way.
So, Willow, before we ring the bell on this episode, what did you take away? I mean, being someone that's not familiar really with Supernatural.
I'm finding that the fandom of Supernatural to be a bit more positive than a lot of other fandoms that are out there. You guys seem to respect each other's opinions, and you guys aren't arguing. Which is great, because I know that there's a lot of fandoms, like a lot of pages that even I've had to stop being a part of when it comes to my own fandom that I'm interested in, and because of the constant bickering that fans do. And Supernatural just seems to be one of those fandoms where everybody seems to get along very well, and they take to heart the true meaning of what the show is about. Family comes first, treat everyone as if they're your own family. And
the inclusion of everything too, that we had characters that were
like everybody was represented in this.
There were characters of every walk of life, every orientation, everything. And
like literally, you had atheists who met angels. It was like, whoa. You had like you touched grounds on everything in this show. Like
everything was represented in some way. Like, there were, and there were blasts from our past as 90s kids, and there were people that had made cameos, and you were like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen this person in 20 years, and
you had A-list actors pop up, like Laura Delevingne, I think, or like you just had A-list actors pop up. It's like you don't realize who popped up until you see them. They're like at the top of their game now. You just like, you were in Supernatural. It's like
and you find out that it really kind of meant something to. I guess like everything that I read afterwards is like they are friends, and they do consider each other family, and they're and everybody's still really close. Like the entire like the pictures of Misha Collins when he watched the finale,
because he had never seen it. He wasn't there.
He wasn't there for the filming because of COVID, and so.
He watched it the first time.
He watched it with us as the fans,
and he cried. Oh
he
man,
cried, and I'm just like, like when they all sat down to watch it, in their respective homes with their respective families. I think, like he was like, this is the first time the kids will sit down and watch an entire episode of this show, and they'll watch it with me. And I'm like, there's something really beautiful that transcends that not every fandom gets. I understand that it was a long time, and there were a lot of strange things that happened along the way.
I saw, I think it was, I don't know if it was his Twitter or his Instagram, but Jeffrey Dean Morgan said, "It's okay, boys. Mom and Dad are here for you."
It's just, and Samantha Smith said that she would have loved to be there, but she was so glad that she got to watch it.
They were all just glad. They're all thankful for Supernatural to be part of their life.
Yeah, like even actors and actresses who left the show, like you haven't seen them in years, came back to say, "Thank you, Supernatural. You gave me this opportunity I never would have had if it wasn't for you. I wouldn't be where I'm at." Like it's such a beautiful show. Like I really love this show because it gave so many people such a good starting point to where they at now, where they honor it. Like them losing Supernatural, like them losing a part of themselves. No matter how long they were with the show or away from the show, it's like it's there. It's always going to be there, and they always honor it. That's how you know they had such a good. Because even Mark Shepard, who played Crowley, and you know how that whole situation with Crowley went down. Even he came back to do the interviews for the finale, because it's just like, look, it's like family bicker, but come back in. Let's sit down. Let's
we still love you, kind of thing.
Yeah. And so to see him come back,
we met him at MegaCon a couple years ago.
Awesome.
He was nice.
And he was heartbroken about what happened with Crowley. So to see him,
he didn't want to leave. It was just big issues. Like
it was a big issue, and to see him like even bury the hatchet with that, and still come back to do the interview, it just goes to show how much the show really means to these actors and actresses.
Wow.
When I have to laugh because I think the last episode that Garth was in, when he was in the house with his family at this little park and everything, and I was like, I don't know that is entirely him just acting like Garth. I just kind of felt like there was that that home. There was a home, there was happiness that kind of transcends the characters. Like they're happy to be there.
And I love that episode too, because this show, like Garth is a supernatural creature who also living the normal life. Like, so it's literally what Sam wants. That's why it was so crazy with that episode, because what Sam wants is normalcy and balance between the supernatural and his normalcy. And Garth was just like, yo, this is a family full of freaking werewolves, and I'm still living in a white picket fence house, and you know
and I'm a dentist.
I'm a dentist. Like, so it
was very. I really feel like it kind of left us in a really good place, and it left us in a world where I can't be sad that I can be sad they're gone, but I can't be like, you know, when you read a really good book and you're like, damn, it's over. And so it's kind of that. It's like, it was 15 years of a really good story. And it had lots of weird twists and turns in it. And it sucked us in. It made us laugh and it made us cry. And if you watch the gag reels, I swear to
it's like quality. It is quality.
Your pants. There was a reel of Rowena. I love Rowena, but the accent that she had is very much like she really does sound like that. And so there was the spell she was saying while they were all in the
where she's gonna give her life.
She's gonna take in the souls and close the gate. And so you hear her, and you vaguely hear it sounds like vulva.
And Misha loses.
And he starts to laugh first, and then there was a whole conversation about like areolas and vulvas and vaginas, and then it was just complete and total. And they were all laughing because they couldn't even handle it. And so then she couldn't even get the words out then when they were trying to do their other takes. And I'm just like, I wonder how many of those times that most of them were probably caught, and a lot of them are on the DVDs and stuff. It's like the best part about physical media is having those little things. And so the gag reels are the most hilarious thing in the whole world, because they mess with each other. There's a whole reel of places where they called each other the wrong name.
Yep.
Sam, Jared, whatever. Like,
okay, the best gag reel, and Darius might already know what I'm talking about. Dean is in baby in the front seat, and all of a sudden, dun, 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 dun.
I was thinking about that at the beginning of the show.
And he's saying, okay, Willow, if you have not seen it, go on YouTube and pull up the clip of Eye of the Tiger, Supernatural.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what?
It was the best.
I was gonna say, if you can pull that up now.
If you can pull it up now.
All right.
Or it's even like when they did at the time, it was a couple years ago, probably like 2012, where or 2013, where the Harlem Shake dance was a craze. And Supernatural did one, and it was so great because it just starts off with Dean dancing, with Jensen dancing next to Baby, and it just next thing you know, just the whole crew they were just with the times. Like it wasn't always a show that just with the times. It's great. It's really like this show is so good on so many. And how many shows do you know that can like transcend so many different platforms, from just the regular live action to the books to they were doing video. They're still trying a video game for Supernatural where Jensen is going to voice Dean and Sam, to the anime like that. Just keep traversing different forms of media and bringing all these new different. I'm telling you, this show is going to be talked about for a long time. Like,
I would play that video game if they ever brought a video game out. That would be cool. It's called I forgot what the name of it is, but they keep trying, and I don't know what's holding it up, honestly, because I think the last development I heard about was probably like 3 to 4 years ago. But it's like I would kill for a Supernatural video game.
I was so sad I was sad though that they had 2 spin-off ideas, and they never like got brought to fruition. Like, but there was a cold pilot for both of them.
Yeah, it was the Blood Wars and Wayward Sisters.
And Wayward Sisters. And
but I don't think that'll go as well as the brothers, though.
And that's why they didn't get picked up.
It didn't get picked up. So it was so Supernatural Bloodlines was they had a backdoor pilot, and
which I thought was good.
It was written by Andrew Dabb and Robert Singer, and so they were talking about the clash. It's the clashing hunter monster cultures in Chicago, which okay, but then they were trying during the 3rd season. Kripke was trying to get the writers to do a prequel that was about Samuel Colt, the origin of the cult.
Yep.
And so that never got like birthed into actual, like it was a pitch, but it was never birthed into actual thing. But I'm like, wouldn't it be awesome if we got the prequel 5 years from now? Like,
yeah,
we got a little bit of a taste of it, and then of course Wayward Sisters, which I don't know, but I feel like I would have followed Jody and Donna. Like I would have followed them.
Definitely.
Donna was awesome.
They were. And, you watch Donna go from this, like, nothing is out there, goody to this, like, oh my God.
Now she's on point where, this person is there, that person is there. Like, she has it down pat. She's organized. I'm like, goodness gracious.
What happened?
Yeah.
Do you have that clip?
Yep.
All right. We'll end the show with this.
All right. And
I can hear it in my head already.
I can hear it.
I think someone dubbed over them. But
yeah.
Willow, you gotta go and pull it up yourself if your sound is a little mismatched. It's awesome.
Oh my goodness. He's so serious. He's so serious and funny at the same time.
Someone just kind of dubbed it all.
Yeah, they dubbed the whole song.
Yeah. Sorry, I found the wrong clip. But
that's so. Carry On Our Wayward Son. I will always see the Impala driving down the street with the boys inside, and I will always, every time I hear I Have the Tiger for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well,
I must do
and
this.
Carry On Wayward Son. That's the two songs where this show will always bring up like memories.
I would say so. Carry On Our Wayward fans, because we are at the end.
We're at the end, and thank you for joining us on this special episode of Reels and Heels, where next week we'll be back with our regular episode, which will be all about Christmas movies, and that will be fun. But until then, it's time to ring the bell. Goodbye, everybody. Stay
Bye.
safe.